Good afternoon. This is a public hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on September 22nd, 2021, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Bob Rawls and I serve as the chair. Hearings are broadcast live on Channel 18 and also recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. Today's hearing is being conducted via remote video conference, originally pursuant to the governor's emergency COVID order, and now under an order allowing remote public meetings through April 1st, 2022. The agenda and copies of documents for review today are posted on the town's website. To all participants, please remain muted unless you are speaking. If you are attending via phone, mute using *6 and use *6 again to unmute. After presentations by applicants and/or the representatives, I will normally ask for comments and questions from commissioners, then the same from interested parties. If you are on the Teams platform, indicate, okay, someone is making some paper flipping noises, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. If you are on the Teams platform, please indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. If you're attending by phone, please unmute with *6 and address the chair. If you are not a commissioner and you are on the Teams platform, please keep your camera turned off unless you are speaking. The commission will vote on each matter by roll call so that we have a record of a quorum. I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Bob Del Vecchio.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Karen Latin.
Present.
Terry Sullivan.
Present.
And as of today, newly elevated to a voting member, Commissioner Mary Sullivan.
Present.
Thank you, Mary. Welcome. Associate member Trina Francisconi told me she would be late, and I assume she's not here. And Associate member William Doherty.
Present.
And I am here as well. So we do have a quorum. And Nicole Smith Nikki Smith is Chatham's conservation agent, and I will now ask her to lead us through today's agenda, including whether any items are being continued.
All right, we do have two continuances. We will be continuing 305 Main Street and 275 Champlain Road. So if you're here for those, you don't need to be because we're not really going to discuss them. So now we have our first notice of intent hearing for 83 Siegel Road, 30 Wikis Way, 0 Tisquantum Road, 2759, 75, and 97 Talippi Run. This is for outermost harbor dredging and sand placement.
Thank you, Nikki. This is Charlie Agro at Coastal Engineering Company on behalf of Outermost Harbor. Can everybody hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right, great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Agro with Coastal Engineering Company here on behalf of Outermost Harbor. This is a project that's been before the commission numerous times, and I would also like to thank the commission again for allowing the previous continuance here to this hearing. The continuance was required because of the hydrographic survey, which we were finally able to get out there and do the post-dredge hydrographic survey, which is shown on the plan that was submitted. Upon doing the hydrographic survey, we did notice that there are still some shallow areas beyond the limit of the emergency dredge footprint, which may require us to reconfigure the dredge footprint down the road here, which is why we are no longer looking to consolidate all of the existing permits as one permit, which was previously part of this application. At this point, we are just looking to close out the emergency certification that was granted back in March of 2020 for the dredge channel extension. The dredge channel extension was shown on the plan here. That's up on the screen. The dredging was completed back in March into April. I believe it was completed by the end of March of 2020. And since then, the channel has remained open and in good shape. And it seems as though the area has somewhat stabilized since it had been a very dynamic zone over the last number of years since the new break in the outer beach on April 1st of 2017. And the dredging that was completed was able to allow vessels to go in and out of the channel at all cycles and all times of the tide to abate the emergency situation that appeared at the time of the emergency certification request. So at this point, if there's any other questions or concerns from the commission, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, Charlie, thank you. Yeah, just this has gone on for a period of time, probably predating a number of us. Just a few words. There was an emergency dredging order. There are a number of other, I don't know how many actually outstanding other applications that are open. Charlie, if you could tell us or know.
There are no other applications that are open. There's several other orders of conditions
Orders of
associated with the
conditions, yeah.
project,
Right.
and those are SE 10-3333, 10-3333, 10-3334, and 10-3277.
Okay.
The original order of conditions being 10-3233, and that was for the original dredge footprint, and that has been amended several times to allow an original extension as well as beach nourishment in front of the oceanfront condominiums dune, as well as nourishment in front of the Telepy Run rock revetment.
So this this item does not show where the dredge materials are being deposited. Those are covered. I assume those are covered. That's because they're all covered by other.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The material that was dredged as part of the emergency dredging project was directly pumped onto the rock revetment in front of Telepy Run, which was permitted under SE 10-3233 as an amendment. And now it's pretty interesting to see a lot of that sand, if not all of the sand, has been eroded, and that area is looks a whole lot different now than it did a couple of years ago. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, Janet has her hand up, so we're just gonna hear from Janet now.
Okay, I mean, how do you covered a fair amount of it, Bob. I just wanted to say to Charlie that in the year and a half since Outermost first came to us asking for after the fact authorization for the dredging that was done pursuant to the emergency order that went beyond, because circumstances were what they were and it went beyond. And we've continued it for a year and a half under the assumption that there was going to be a consolidation of all of these outstanding orders. Now, I understand the delay for the hydrographic survey, and that's a very informative tool you've got there. But I don't understand what's happened to the consolidation approach and why we're back to just the after the fact for the excess dredge on the emergency.
Yeah, so at this point, the only thing that was required was to close out the emergency certification with the after the fact notice of intent. The permit consolidation would be ideal. However, at this point, all of the permits expiration dates have been extended due to COVID-19 and the emergency order around it. And at this point, in looking at the area just south of the emergency dredge extension, we've got some shallow areas there that have gotten shallower and shallower over time. If you zoom in on the plan, there's a minus 2.0 foot sounding at mean low water, and then even a minus 1.1 foot sounding at mean low water just south of the emergency extension. which just goes to show that at mean low water, the area just beyond the extension is starting to get very shallow. So rather than update all of the permits for this particular dredge configuration, we may be looking in the future to reconfiguring the dredge channel so that Nikki, if you wouldn't mind zooming out there, whoever is in charge of the computer showing the plans. Rather than the channel hooking around to the right, there may be we may be looking into reconfiguring the channel so it goes straight out rather than coming to the right here, because this area just south of the extension looks like I might be filling in. So that's something that we're going to reevaluate after doing a updated hydrographic survey. So that's once we got that new information, that's why we changed our approach.
Does the extent of that survey cover that area? How extensive is the surveyed area?
Yeah, the survey goes to the east of what's shown on the plan on the left-hand side here. So we covered from the emergency dredge footprint, that sandbar, that's you can kind of see in the background there in that
Yep.
image overlay.
Yep.
On the other side of that sandbar, there is another area of deep water, and then another sandbar behind that. As always, the sandbars are moving around. So it's something that we may be looking into that we've discussed briefly with Ted Keon and Dr. Duncanson over the years as well. And we may finally be looking to pursue that. But at this
Okay.
point, we aren't.
So just to clarify, the dredge material from the original emergency order went to Quitnesset Beach and the disposal areas shown.
So the material from the emergency dredge area went to Tillipy Run, and that's not shown on this plan just because that's already permitted. The reason why the Tillipy Run nourishment areas are shown is just because they fit on the site plan on the left-hand side, and those are
okay.
all previously permitted as well.
Okay. And do you know offhand what the total volume was that was disposed of at Tillipy Run?
That was about 7,000 cubic yards. And it's very impressive to see all of that has eroded. And we've done some surveys of that beach, and it's eroded below levels back in 2018. So the amount of erosion going on over there, it's evident when you look at the Monomoy Wildlife Bank that's really eroded in
Yeah.
quite drastically.
Yeah.
So all of the sand that was placed there is unfortunately gone.
Which we thought might happen, but
It was likely. I mean, they
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
still surprised to see it happen this quick.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, any Bob?
I'd like to know where that sand went. Do you know where that sand went?
That's the $1 million question. So it looks like now the opening in of South Beach, so the southernmost inlet to Chatham Harbor, it's moved about 2,000, 3,000 feet south. That opening used to be directly seaward of outermost harbor, and that's when the conditions at outermost were at their worst. Now, as that's moved south, it's directly seaward of Tillipy Run, and that area has become very dynamic. So hopefully as the inlet continues to move south, it'll provide that area a little bit more protection and restabilize it.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any other hands
I
up.
have one,
I
I'm sorry, last follow-up. if I
got
may.
something, okay.
Yeah. So Charlie, is there still a plan to consolidate all the outstanding permits at some point or close the, what is the thinking about?
Potentially at some, I potentially at some point, we would either look to consolidate the permits or reconfigure the dredge permit.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So as I understand you, Charlie, right now you actually are under no deadline for closing any of this out in your assessment.
That's correct. So we'll continue to monitor the conditions out there I think the outermost harbor management, they do some periodic aerial imagery of the harbor, which has been very helpful in monitoring the changes of the beach and the channel. And the town of Chatham as well does some flyover aerial imagery, which is very helpful.
Right. It is a very dynamic area, as all of us can intuit, and it's going to remain that way for some time to come. So I can't think of a reason why we shouldn't close out what is essentially something that was already done and authorized through a long ago emergency order. Unless someone else can think of something. It is unfortunate. We were hoping, I think you were hoping as well, I assume, to consolidate these, because it's a paperwork morass for you and for us at this point.
Well, correct. And one way or another going forward, as we go forward, we'll be looking to, as I said, either consolidate the permits or reconfigure the dredge area.
Which would then make the other relevant open items moot.
Right.
Yeah. So in effect, you could be consolidating everything with a new proposal.
Right.
Okay. All right. Terry.
Yeah, maybe the engineer can check in with the conservation agent at some point, just to kind of square up the details on this, because they're both probably more knowledgeable on the paperwork here, and I'm not knowledgeable. I don't think, maybe some of you are, but I don't think that going through stuff that's already happened and just how to close it is something that we should be probably allocating a lot of time to. So I go with whatever everyone thinks, but some of this just seems like we got to set up a meeting and get this stuff closed up. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, I think procedurally we have a request here in front of us to close the after the fact, and so I think that's what we are obligated to vote on one way or another. So if there are no concerns about it, then I guess we will be ready for a motion.
Make a motion that we close 83 Seagull Road. The emergency order.
After the fact, I guess.
After the fact.
Sullivan seconds.
All right. Roll call vote. Bob.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Terry.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So that's at least something that has been dispensed with, Charlie. So
Great.
Hopefully.
Well, thank you all very much.
hopefully we can close the rest of them in our lifetimes.
All righty. Thank you. Well, have a good day, everybody.
Thanks.
All right. So I probably should ask this right before Charlie left, but are you wanting a full order of conditions for this? No. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think we're
So
just.
then I'll just send a letter or do the paperwork that says you're closed and we're good to go. Okay. I was
Yeah.
confused about that. Okay. So with that one being done, we are on to 305 Main Street, Timothy C. Emerson Revocable Trust, map 16C, parcel 33, SE 10-3393, proposed demolition of a cottage and construction of the building addition. This one has finally been approved by Historic, but has not made it onto a ZBA agenda yet. So I wanted to at least have it on the agenda before we, and hopefully have at least maybe one hearing from ZBA before we do the order. They did not think that the plan would be changed by ZBA, but I did at least want them to, have it in their hands before we go through making an order. So they want to continue to November 10th.
Right. This is one where I think maybe it was me who said one more time, but maybe we're almost there this time.
I think we're getting close, and it's, it's not necessarily their fault. It took a long time for historic and zoning and all that stuff, so.
Yep. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue 305 Main Street to November 10th, 2021.
Sullivan seconds.
Roll call
Terry
vote.
Sullivan seconds.
Yes, thank you. Oh, thank you, Terry, for clarity. Roll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
and Mary.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
All right, next up, we have the notice of intent for 8 Windmill Lane, Howard and Inga Walker, map 16A, parcel 22H9, SE 10-3506, reconstruction of existing sunroom with crawl space, foundation, and new deck.
And do we have anybody?
Should be John O'Reilly.
Mr. O'Reilly, are you there? Apparently not, unless he's one of those telephone numbers and he can't get unmuted. Well,
Well,
that's
maybe I
unfortunate.
will
Yeah.
send him an email seeing if he can. Yeah, I'm just double checking. It did say no, or for today's meeting. So I will send him an email and see if he's going to join us, and maybe just got caught up with something else, and maybe we'll
Right.
get back.
Maybe we'll hear him. Yeah, good idea.
All right, so now I'm all scattered.
Welcome to the club.
Next we have 631 Riverview Drive, William and Iris Lee, map 8K, parcel C53, SE 10-3502, land management and view maintenance.
Good afternoon, David Clark here. Hope you all can hear me okay.
Yes.
So the last we left it, the commission asked for a land management plan for the activities that were proposed. Mr. Lee has hired Crawford Land Management, and I believe Nick is on the line to talk about the plan that he's developed.
Hi, this is Jen from Crawford
Oh.
Land Management. I'm
Hi.
here in place of Nick. You guys get me today. Sorry, you skipped ahead. I wasn't anticipating. All right, I'm here. I'm ready. So, based on what I know of the project, which I think I know quite a bit, Nick went out and took a look at the view area that is shown on our plan and on actually, I don't know, Dave, I don't even know if you submitted one, but it's shown on our plan based on the file that Dave gave us. So within the view corridor, I know that this is a little bit different than what was previously proposed. So what Nick did was inventoried the area, which he said was very well vegetated with native species already. In that view area, there are a few stump sprouts that were previously pruned and previously cut from pretty small stature oak and cherry. He said that they were all saplings. So basically the proposal is pretty simple for maintaining this view corridor. We're trying to get permission to remove the stump sprouts that are in it, to replace them with understory shrubs that are appropriate for the area, to fill back in the small gaps that that removal of the stump sprouts would leave. There are also, he said that there are 2 very small areas of invasive species on the property that we've included in here for the ability to get rid of and to maintain. He said it's pretty minor. It's vine species, porcelainberry and bittersweet. But with that exception, everything else is very well vegetated and native. He said that even with the removals of the stump sprouts, which are pretty small. He said they're only around 5 feet high. That the area was very well treed, so the canopy would be still pretty consistent. It's not going to affect any of the canopied areas that are there already. And that's what I got. So I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Okay. Yeah, what we have is a landscaping plan from Crawford, and we also have a prior site plan which showed a view corridor, and then on the left side looking down to the river, and on the right side there's a very treed area where I think originally was proposed to remove 57 saplings.
Correct.
And so I'm trying to reconcile that site plan with your land management plan, I guess.
Yep. So
And-
my understanding, and maybe Dave can help fill in the gaps of my knowledge in this project. But my understanding was that the original proposal to remove a lot of these saplings in the understory, wasn't maybe something that you wanted to see. So we got involved in the project and took a look at it from, I think, just a different vantage point, literally, in terms of managing existing views and managing native plant communities that are already existing there. So in Nick's review of the site conditions and the view area that was already there, he didn't feel that it was really beneficial in terms of views or from an ecological standpoint to propose removal of a lot of understory saplings, even though they they're existing in full shade conditions. They may or may not mature to full canopy trees, depending on how those areas naturally succeed. But the area where we could help preserve view in a manner that we felt was ecologically sound manner to do it, would it be how we're proposing to do it on the plan in the area where they do have that existing view corridor. So that's my understanding from Nick, is that's kind of how our involvement in the project really came about. So Dave, if there's anything that you can add to that, or if I need correction on any of that, please feel free.
David Clark here. So what I took out of the last meeting was that the commission was not in favor of removing any of those saplings unless there were reasons within your regulations to take them out. So at this point, I will talk to my client. It's simply what I would propose then at this point is just withdraw my plan. I will submit basically an existing conditions plan, and then the Crawford plan would be the plan of record of what activities are happening out there.
Yeah, that would be a little less confusing.
Yeah, that would be a lot less confusing. Yeah.
So, all right. So we will then stop talking to you, David, and we'll go back to Jen. Because
I'll do my best.
It's her plan that we're looking at. So there's no narrative associated with this. There are notes. And so just so I understand what I'm looking at, and again, I sort of mentally break this project down into two sections. It's when you're looking down to the river, it's the right side that's heavily canopied, and then the left side, it was previously cut. Now, actually, I want to make a little note here that there was no previously established view corridor. There was, as far as we can tell, an administrative review, I think in 2013 or thereabouts, that allowed some tree limbing, but it would appear that work occurred there by apparently the previous owner that went substantially beyond what was permitted by that administrative review. And correct me, Nikki, if that is a mischaracterization of what you saw on the record.
Nope, it was for the previous owner, Mr. Pfeiffer, for removal of poison ivy and a few limbs, but that's, a one-time only permit, so there was no mention of a full view corridor. So just for clarity's sake, on the on any plans that are submitted, I would use the word proposed view corridor, not permitted. I don't want there to be confusion in the future.
Yep.
Right. Because right now
Oh.
we don't see that there is an established view corridor.
This is William Lee, the homeowner.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
And if you look back using Google Earth, back as far as 1995, it is clear that there was a view corridor at that time, and it has overgrown. There are winter aerial views where it shows vast amounts of space on that left-hand side that is wide open all the way down to the river. So there was a previously established view corridor. I don't know who may have done it. As I said, the aerial photos going back to 1995 clearly show that that area is cleared out. I couldn't say for sure one way or another what Mr. Pfeiffer may have had cleared, since I don't have the previous records, but he was, at that point, he was simply maintaining some of the view corridor himself.
Yep, I mean, I definitely understand that there was probably one there. It just has never been permitted, so that's what we're trying to take care of now.
We will assume, since there is no record of a requested and approved view corridor, that it was simply done. So that's why we don't consider it to be a valid view corridor on record.
Right. But that's what this proposal would be trying to establish with you, or gaining approval to establish, would be that view corridor, correct?
There is that possibility.
Right. Yep. At least that would be our intent.
That would appear to be your intent. Yes. So now that that's out of the way, can I just refer to the left side and the right side? And we all know what we're talking about. The left side is the view corridor area.
Yep.
I just call it the view corridor area. So there are a bunch of saplings there. So is the intent here to either remove them or let them grow?
So the intent, yep. So the intent, and they're marked on the plan and shown, they're shown as a circle with an X through them and labeled on there. So for instance, you'll see 3-inch stump sprouted black oak. So the intent with those would be to remove them and then to replace them with plantings that are shown on the plan. The area, like I said, is already fairly well vegetated with an ericaceous understory. So it has huckleberry, lowbush blueberry, things that you would see associated with, with this type of a woodland with a lot of oak and pitch pine and cherry in it. So that would be the intent within the existing, with that existing area, rather than trying to create a new view someplace else, or or dealing with the mature woodlands, so to speak, utilizing the area that has already been managed in the past, we'll say.
Yeah, shall we say. So then I infer that if I look at the X's, all of the existing tree stumps or sprouts would be removed in that area.
That is my understanding, and they're most are very small. So like you'll see up near the top, near the 200-foot riverfront buffer line, that there's 3 of them there, but they're 1-inch black oak stump sprouts. So they're very small in stature. We're not talking about a 12 or 18-inch tree that was cut down that's now resprouting. We're talking about very, very small seedling sapling type of growth that's resprouting.
Right. So just again, I'm going to keep coming back to this because I want,
Yep.
and it's important to be very clear on this.
Yep.
In the proposed view corridor, there would not be any trees.
Based on what I can see on the plans, because I have not been to this site, I would say yes. With the exception of down along close to the property line, it looks like there are some along the edges there. But I did ask Nick when I was getting the download from him, so to speak, this morning, about the shade sun ratio, so to speak, of the area, because he had said that there was that ericaceous understory with the low bush blueberry, the huckleberry that likes those shady conditions. And I said, will this work or whatever had been done in the past, will it alter the area for the ground cover that's currently existing? And he said no. He said with the amount of canopied trees on either side of it, he felt that everything should be able to persist in those conditions just as it is now, and that would not have any impact on it. So, and as it has been persisting previously. So I did actually ask him that question, so I knew.
So to make sure I understood that, down near the river, there are trees indicated on your plan. 1, 2,
Well,
3, 4, maybe 5. I'm not sure. Those
down
would.
to the top of the coastal bank, technically, because the property continues on down.
Well,
to,
yeah.
Yep. So it looks as though, based on the survey, yeah, there are a couple of trees within that corridor there, and I would assume that continue on down the top of the coastal bank. But within the view area, so to speak, that's shown on our plan with the hatch, my understanding is that all of the large canopy trees would be either to the north or south of that, along the edges, but not within the middle itself. And that looks to be like it's about a 25 to 30 foot wide, at least based on what I'm seeing on the plan, probably about 30 feet or so wide area, which in a mature woodland system is not actually that far apart for trunks to occur.
So anything that's outside of the, I guess what you're calling a hatched, I would call the dotted hatch.
Yep.
You would not,
Yes.
you would not be touching.
Correct.
Okay.
With the exception of where we have notes for bittersweet and porcelain berry, those invasive species.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
And on the other side, whereas previously it was proposed that 57 saplings come out, you're proposing how many, or if any?
If it's not within the view area or noted on the plan, we're not proposing anything.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to know for the moment. So let's go ahead and open it up. Terry, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just got a couple of quick questions, and they kind of, you addressed them a little bit, but we used the term remove stump saplings versus then we started talking about saplings, and how do you remove the stump sapling?
They're just flush cut and then a cut stem treatment on them so that they don't resprout. So we wouldn't remove any of the root material. It wouldn't benefit us at all to remove the root material, especially not with all of the native understory growing around it. So it's the least invasive and disruptive way.
Good. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. And Janet.
Thank you, Bob. So Jen, as I look at the plan, I'm counting, so there's 15 of these primarily black oak, but some black cherries that are being removed.
Yep, that's what it looks like to me. And it looks like they're anywhere from, at a quick glance, 1 inch to 3 inch.
Yep. Well,
Yes.
as the sprouts at the time, right now, they're 1 to 3 inch sprouts coming off of the stump that was left behind. My question is, given the number of projects that we've looked at and discussed and approved for coppicing, why wouldn't some of these be allowed to regrow and coppiced?
That's a great question. And honestly, I cannot answer that. Just based on the fact that I have not been to the site and seen the site conditions, and I'm trying to do my due diligence for Nick here. It may be a possibility that they, given the elevations on the slope, that they could be allowed to regrow and then managed at a certain height. That may be a possibility, but then they would need to be
photographs of some of these black oak stumps and the sprouts that are coming up. They look like classically good candidates for it.
Yep. So it depends on how you stump sprout manage them, so to speak, or well, it depends on what your purpose is. And if you are continually rotationally cutting them, then they can be maintained at a certain height. Otherwise, at some point in time, they have to be, the leader has to be taken out and then they have to be pruned for lateral growth. Either that, or if you're stump sprout managing to go back into to go back into a mature canopy tree. That's a different type of treatment, but I'm more than happy to talk to Nick about the feasibility of that with the specimens that he saw out there, and to circle back with Mr. Lee on that as well.
I would appreciate that for two reasons. One is that I think we're all struggling with this visualization of this area, this coastal bank that's pretty well treed, a pretty decent canopy, except for this slice that's not going to have any canopy in it. And I think that to the extent to which some canopy can be reestablished there, and a couple of trees won't change the view, I mean, that should be fine. That would be preferable to taking out all the canopy trees.
Right, and just to be clear, the top of the coastal bank is actually off the property. So the area that we're in is
okay. Yes, excuse me. I didn't mean to say on the coastal bank. This area above, on the
yes, because we're dealing all with buffer zone in this area, and it's the the outer buffer zone to the coast, mostly the outer buffer zone to the coastal bank, and the 100 to 200 foot riverfront buffer is what we're dealing with.
Yep. Okay. And my second question. And it's one I've often wanted to ask before, and this is the perfect time to reveal how little I know about some of this stuff. And that is, when you flush cut these trees, and the previously existing oaks and cherries were substantially larger than the sprouts that are coming up now. And
Got
you
it.
leave
See,
roots
that's
in
good to know.
place. How is it possible to densely plant the shrubs in these areas? Are the areas not full of those existing roots?
They are.
How do you handle that?
Yep, they are. So that's one of the reasons why we have a tendency to use or to try to use and try to permit smaller size plants to go in. So we have on our plan spec'd out for number 3 pots, which are pretty small in stature. So, you know, we can't plant it like right on top of a stump, but usually within a few feet of it, depending on how big that root flare is, we're able to find enough room. Because really the fibrous roots are further out. If it's up close to the trunk, it's more of the large trunk roots. And so we're usually able to find an area pretty close where we can get that size of a plant in. Now, there's no way that we could, and that's why it's basically impossible to do something like a 6-foot B&B or something like that. It becomes much more difficult just because of the amount of room that we need. And that's also why we use some of the native sod, because that comes in smaller pieces. So we can easily fit that in, you know, gaps in the understory, and then it will just knit itself right back into that community really well. And based on what Nick had told me of the area, he said that you could reasonably expect any gaps, so to speak, from removing the stump sprouts. He said you could probably reasonably expect them to be filled in within a couple of years naturally on their own. But knowing that we, you know, are proposing to remove some of that biomass right away, putting stuff back right away seems to be the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. And just to clarify, one last quick cut, just on what we're referring to as the right side, the side that still has a good canopy. The proposal is simply to manage some of the invasives in there, and then plant an understory in the sparse areas.
So definitely to manage. I assume that any areas that are exposed mineral soils in there, we would definitely seed. If there's an understory duff layer, we can throw some seed in there, but we probably wouldn't do much if there's already an understory duff layer, so to speak, because in order to seed it, we would have to remove the duff. And that is can be kind of counterproductive, so to speak. So by removing the invasive species, at least we would allow that area to promote any sort of native understory growth to naturally come in and be able to do whatever it whatever it wants to do in those areas.
Yep. Okay. But the plan is showing 6 viburnum and 3 chokeberry going in
on the upper part of the slope. Yep, near the edge of the riverfront area. Yeah. Correct. Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
David Clark here. I just wanted to make one more statement regarding the property itself as a whole. The house was built in 1988. At that time, the resource area would have been to the 100-foot buffer to the top of the bank. In 1996, the riverfront area became a resource area, and thus you see the 200-foot line that's significantly closer to the house. So from 1988 to 1996, that area between the 100-foot buffer and the 200-foot riverfront line was outside of the regulations. Thank you.
Good to know.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, Jen, I see on the plant schedule, huckleberry and blueberry sod, 330 square feet.
Yep.
There's no mention of where it's going to be planted on the plan. Can you tell us where it's going to be planted?
Yes, yes, I see that is not very clear between the legend and the planting plan. So we actually do show some areas on the planting plan, but we weren't exactly sure how, honestly, we weren't exactly sure how to represent it for you, because the intent would be that those pieces would be used to fill in the area wherever it was needed. So we showed them on the plan as the very small plant circles that you see occur in groups of 3. So there should be 30 of them on there, but we showed them kind of scattered throughout the area with the intent that they would go where they were needed actually on site to go, so to speak.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Even though it's not very clear in my legend, clearly.
As needed, yes. Okay, and then on the plan, on the bottom photo to the left, the narrative says previously permitted view corridor, so that has to be scratched.
Correct, and that the language that you wanted was proposed view corridor, correct?
Yes.
Yep, I got that. I noted that, so I can make sure to go through the document and clean that up.
Yeah. And other than that, I don't think I have any other questions. I think they were covered.
Oh, as we've been on the hearing, I actually asked Nick a question about the ability to potentially coppice some of those, and his response to me really quickly was, no, a lot of those original stumps that were cut are rotting, or the centers are rotten now, and so it may not be, he didn't know that it was a very viable option to implement some sort of coppice type of system with those because of their age and how they were previously treated. Yeah, that's what I'm getting from him. Anyway, I can explore that a little bit more, but that's a preliminary answer on that question.
Is that it, Bob? Okay. All right, anybody else? I am struggling with something here. Obviously, this plan is way better than Dave's plan. Sorry, Dave. But I am struggling a bit with the fact that our town conservation guidelines and policies prohibit what is referred to as a vista pruning, or a broad vista corridor.
Mm.
And they do encourage and prefer and allow what is referred to, I guess, as a filtered view corridor. And so really what I think we will wind up with here, or what we would wind up with here, is a cleared view for a couple hundred feet, I'm guessing, or more, from the house all the way down to, I think that's Oyster River.
There's a whole stretch of area off the property that that is, I guess
it's off the property, right? So you can't touch it. Yeah.
Correct. So I just want to be mindful of the actual site conditions that we're working with, and I think that filtered views and not clear corridors, so to speak, are really good in theory, and they're really good when you have a relatively flat property, but they are more difficult to obtain when you have such a large amount of grade change from where the house is to where the bottom of the the riverbank is, so to speak, because there's such a differential that I'm not saying that it's not feasible or not attainable, but I think that as a blanket statement, it's not always what works, so to speak, when you're given various site conditions. But I understand your point completely. One of the things that Nick did just mention to me is if reintroducing so if we were to entertain a COPPA strategy and it actually worked with what was on site, that would basically be maintaining trees at what I would call more of an understory tree height, so to speak. So maybe a better solution for this particular site condition would be for us to introduce some understory canopy trees so that we're able to get that woodland layer stratification, but not have to deal with consistently pruning or going back into the area in order to, try to get oaks to behave in the way of an understory tree, so to speak. So that is something that we're happy to look at to kind of knit this back together in a way that is a little bit more in keeping with, I think, the intent of your regulations, and also merging it with kind of an existing site condition that we're trying to deal with in a sound, ecologically sound way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and it sounds attractive to me, and it sounds, I guess, you articulated what I was trying to figure out here. Because the vegetation that's off the property is there, and so I wonder if you make your corridor as low as I think it is currently designed, then is it really doing you any good to have it that low if your view of the river is still blocked to some degree by what's off the property?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then there will be no impact on the enjoyment of the view, as it were, if you had a higher, as you call it, a mid canopy growth,
Right.
where wildlife could make their home, and there'd be more habitat, more places for animals to live. Whereas what I think we have here is kind of limited to that purpose.
Yep, we can definitely look into that and discuss that with Mr. Lee.
Okay, I would appreciate it. I think we all would. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, so I understand that we will want to continue this for some revisions.
Yeah, I think that based on the comments that I've heard, I think that this is probably something that we can discuss and resolve on our end pretty quickly. So if it's possible to continue to the next feasible hearing, that would be great. I don't think that any revisions that we would intend on submitting should take too long.
Okay, and if in the process, would you just toss in a short narrative to sort of
Yep.
explain what's happening in the plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right, so that kind of gives us two options that the commission members can decide. We can go ahead and draft an order of conditions pending the information that they give us. And if we don't like the information, then we obviously don't have to approve the order. So that could be October 6th, or we could wait and do another hearing on the 13th, like a regular hearing like this on the 13th.
Well, Terry?
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with the project, so to speak, but I do have a concern relative to whether we're setting a precedent for others in the neighborhood too, which is fine if we're okay with that. And if we're not for some reason, then I'd like to know that too before we make a vote.
What sort of precedent are you concerned about?
Well, the others, and it's fine if everyone can have a view corridor.
Well,
that's fine.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Whether it's a view corridor or whether it's a vista corridor, is that what are you talking about?
Cut it down, whatever they call it.
Yeah. Well, as I every case is brought forth on a case-by-case basis. So, whether we set precedents is a debatable thing.
Okay.
But I think as long as we approve projects or deny them based on their own merits, I think that we are doing what we need to do. So, Bob, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wonder if we do continue it to November, is there enough time for, when were they thinking of getting this project underway and planting and so forth? That's what I have for a question here. I don't know if Jen's still on the line.
I am still on the line. That would be a conversation that Nick and the property owner have probably had that I do not know the answer to. But I think if I have a voice in this, I'm going to tell you whether you like it or not. But what I would say is that if it's, the things that you guys have asked us to look at, like I said, are really simple. So if you think that generally speaking, you're comfortable with the project, I would love to see it continue to the 6th. And as Nikki said, if it's, if what I bring back to you for whatever reason is not palatable, we don't have to move forward at that point, and we can figure out how to address it going forward. But it seems as though hopefully this is a relatively, small and simple project. So that would be my preference if possible. But I don't know if the homeowner has any, is in a rush or not. I'm not really sure of that answer, so.
Janet?
Yeah, underscoring what Terry just said, one of the things that I've been struggling with here is that we all recognize that this situation has come about because the previous owner failed to comply with the existing standards and regulations. And so
some of the area was not in jurisdiction as well.
That's true. That's true. I understand that, but when the riverfront,
but some of it was
right, but some of it was. So to the extent to which it reinforces the unfortunately popular view that it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. That only planting shrubs in this area gets what they wanted in the first place is something a little bit troublesome. And secondly, as I was saying before, having a slice of this area without any canopy at all bothers me from an ecosystem perspective. But your solution of perhaps being able to compensate for the loss of some of these by putting in some understory canopy so that there is some canopy reestablished would solve all of that, I think, in a pretty elegant way. So
I think it would solve it in the best way that we can practically achieve at this stage of the game.
Exactly.
William?
Yes, the question was when we wanted to embark on this. Basically, the goal was as soon as we could get it approved, provided the weather is cooperating, to start embarking on the project.
Okay. So I am personally okay with going to the work session, reviewing what's submitted, and then either approving it or kicking it back at that point. I agree that the changes would probably be very, very defined in scope. So if anyone feels differently, then I think we're ready, Bob, for a motion to go to the next work session for order conditions, pending revised materials, pending acceptance of revised materials. Hey, Bob. I think Bob is, hey.
I'm sorry.
You're thinking, okay.
So we're I'm gonna make a motion to send 631 Riverview Drive to the work session for an order of conditions, depending on the submitted material for approval.
Was that a second?
Yes, Terry
Okay.
Sullivan seconds.
Okay. All right.
Clarification, it's October the 6th.
October the 6th. Okay, thank you, Janet.
Certain.
Yeah. So roll call vote. Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Well, thank you guys for bearing with me. And I will have more succinct information for you next time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have 275 Champlain, getting feedback. 275 Champlain Road, Burton B. Stanier, map 12A parcel 2, does not have an SE number. And this was for deck relocation and invasive species management. They are asking to, I had originally thought they were asking to continue to November, but then I got a letter saying continue to October 12th this morning. So I haven't figured out when exactly they want to continue to, because October 12th is a filing deadline. So I'm not sure if they wanted the meeting that corresponded with that or they wanted October 13th. So, but for now, I would just say we continue to October 13th. They need to go to zoning because there's some confusion on whether this is an accessory structure to nothing. So there's no dwelling on the property, but there is room to get a dwelling put in outside of our jurisdiction. So I don't know if that's kind of what they're planning, but they aren't asking us for the dwelling because it's out of our jurisdiction or whatever. So they just need clarification on that kind of stuff. So yes, they are going to zoning. So, and then there was, quite a few other questions that popped up during everyone's review of the project. So, again, like I said, they wanted to go to October 13th.
Including, for me, where was it? So, or where is it?
Yeah.
I hope that they can, if, I don't know if anyone found it, but if they continue, we continue it, please ask them for some specific directions on how to locate the area. All right, so.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue 275 Champlain Road to sometime in October.
October 13th. And if they wanted further on than that, then we can just continue it again at the next one.
On October 13th, 2021.
All right, Terry Sullivan seconds.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
All right, we have 43 Dune Drive, Terry Robbins, trustee, map 16A, parcel C4. There's no SC number. Replace deck and landscape alterations within land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering. On behalf of the applicants, I believe Rob Calderero from Pohemus and Savory is also on the line. Rob prepared the landscape plan. So this is primarily or is a landscape and hardscape project. The house is located entirely within land subject to coastal storm flowage. There is also windblown material that resembles a dune on the east side of the deck. So the two resource areas are basically a coastal dune and land subject to coastal storm flowage. So the closest activity to the dune is a replacement of the deck, and it's a straight replacement, no expansion. So the existing deck will be removed, carted off site, and new deck installed in the same location. The other landscape portions of the project, we're proposing a refuse area right next to the garage. So that's just 3 sections of fence, more or less, to enclose the containers and some steppers to get around the building on that side. On the north side of the building, we're proposing a generator pad. And then the final portion of the project is to change the configuration of the driveway. It is a driveway that the house is several decades old at this point. Just a few years ago, the owners replace the asphalt driveway with shell. I don't know if it was done on an RDA, but there was no record of a notice intent being filed for that. But they have been making environmental improvements to the property since they've owned it, specifically the driveway. But it's just a slight reconfiguration of the driveway, which results in a very small increase. What's not shown on my plan are the mitigation plantings and other foundation plantings that Rob can describe. But I'm happy to answer any questions on the Clark engineering plan.
Right, thank you, David. Should we hear, is anyone here to talk about the landscape plan?
Sure. It's Rob Calderero, Polhima Cervi de Silva.
Yes, please go ahead.
Is there a planting plan as well submitted?
There's a landscape plan.
Is this the only plan you guys have? There should be another plan, but that aside, I can pretty much explain. So there is an addition of a generator pad on the backside. Flanking that are 2 new planting beds consisting of inkberry and calethra. We're also adding a simple mow strip along the north side of the garage, because the northwest side of the garage. The existing siding comes right down to the ground and is experiencing some decay there. And what we're proposing is an 18-inch drip strip that would be steel edging and pea stone up against the foundation. And then the addition of some Carolina rose in that area as well. So you can see the plant bed there as well. As Dave mentioned, the driveway configuration is really just a kind of a squaring off of the hammerhead piece, the turnaround piece. And then the removal of an existing brick walkway, both to the mudroom entrance and the front door, and replacing that with stepping stones in lawn. So again, relatively minor improvements, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a different plan with like planting notes and stuff. So I guess somehow that did not get into the digital package that was sent to me. So I have a paper copy, but I was unaware that it was not in what I had uploaded.
That's no problem. I think I explained it pretty simply. And again,
Yeah,
just
that would affect 2 of us that didn't see it. So actually, Nick, if you could just email it to Janet and myself, at least we can get a quick glance at it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that this plan was modified and after we got the digital copy or something. I don't have what I'm showing in the file. I have a different one, so that's why I didn't realize it was not the right one.
Okay.
But yes, we can scan that and email it to you. I can do it real quick right now if you guys want to wait, or
No, I guess I don't. I mean, you could, if someone other than you can work on that, then if we have time, we can, before we move on. If we don't, then we don't. I'm just going, so for those of you who have the advantage of all the material, I'll just open it up for questions at this point. That would be Janet, I think, got her beat everyone to the draw.
Yeah, well, because I didn't have it. So while we're waiting, it's okay. Can you enlighten me? There was a reference somewhere to a removal of 400 square feet of lawn. Where is that coming from?
Is David currently active, or can I talk to him?
Dave, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to take it?
Go ahead, Rob.
The removal of lawn is largely due to the fact that we've added plant bed. So there are
Okay.
plant beds that are basically lawn area right up to the building in the areas where we are adding plants. So that is indeed a reduction in lawn in addition of native plant material in that area.
Okay, so the plant beds both reduce the lawn area and add native plants.
That's correct.
And that's done as mitigation for the 186 square feet of additional impact. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Gotcha. That's, I couldn't figure out. Okay, thank you. That clarifies that.
Okay, Bob.
Yes, on the plant schedule, calls for 44 clethra. And I only count 3.
There should not be 44. I think there's, I want to say, I don't have the plan in front of me. Hold on.
I think 11.
Yeah. If that, if it
11.
does say 44, we'll make that correction. I apologize.
Or maybe 13 tops. Okay. And the existing walk is going to be replaced with stepping stones. Is that it? On the
Stepping
front
stones
side?
in lawn. That's correct.
And where is the additional hard coverage, landscape coverage coming from?
It's the generator and then the walkway that is the stepping stones going from the side of the driveway to the trash area.
Okay, and so those stepping stones are not on the plan that I have, the paper copy. I see the plants, I see the planting bed to the left of the garage, but I don't see any stepping stones to the left of the driveway, to the left of the garage.
What's the date on your plan?
August 25th.
Yeah, Nikki, put it up, yeah.
Yeah, they're showing on this plan here.
You're on, yeah, I have that one.
So they are shown basically walking around. You might have mistaken them for plants.
It's on the, it's the landscape plan, I think, Bob, not the planting plan.
Oh, I don't have that one. Okay.
That's right.
So this is the, this is the planting plan on that we're viewing right now?
I'm not sure. I don't know if
I think,
you guys
I think
can
the
tell us.
walkway is shown
Are we
on both
supposed to have
plans.
2 different plans from Polhemus or just one?
You should just have the planting plan, and the site plan should be from Clark.
That's the planting plan I have, and it does show the cobblestones to the left of the driveway going to the trash, but it also has 2 of the clethras next to the trash and circled by that little cobblestone.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying now, right up to the trash, and that's it just stopped right there.
Right.
And then the other one comes from these, what I think are side steps, it looks like, to the driveway.
Yeah, and there are existing walkways in both those areas. We're just replacing them with a more pervious solution.
Okay. Yeah, aside from the number of clethra, I can see everything now. Okay, that's all I had at this point. Thank you.
Karen. Oops. Oh, there you are.
I don't see on the anywhere, what is the deck material being used that's going to replace the existing deck?
It will be Ipe decking.
What, I'm not familiar with that.
That
Is that a
is,
plastic?
no, it's a wood.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it's, since I don't have, what I have is the landscape plan, which doesn't remind me again, then is the mitigation planting, does it consist of only, no, now I can see on the plan that's on the screen here. We have Summer Sweet, Bearberry, and Carolina Rose. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Is there, I guess my question is, we're increasing coverage in the no disturb zone by 148 square feet. And I guess, we are obligated to ask the question, it is called the no disturb zone for a reason. Is there any way to not do that?
Well, it's
Sorry, David.
yeah, I just I think the applicants feel that it gives them better maneuvering in and out of the garage. And then that's why we're asking for the change. I know they made
The actual
changes to
driveway,
the site.
David, I believe is outside the 0 to 50.
Well, I think what the chair's getting at is the floodplain itself
Oh, okay.
requires a variance for any alterations. It's not technically a no disturb zone, but the regulations say no activity can occur without a variance.
Which then, yeah, you're correct, and which also includes an alternatives analysis. So
yeah.
why was there no alternative? Or is there an alternative? I think we're obligated to ask the question.
Yeah, but I mean, an alternative that has less impact on the resource area. Like I stated at the beginning, the applicants did remove an asphalt driveway and change it to pervious or semi-pervious. So I think that is an improvement to the property. So if we looked at what was paid versus what's shell now, I think there's obvious environmental improvement. For the small area that we're asking the lawn to be removed, I suppose we could look at trying to shave off other areas of the driveway to try to get that to balance. But that's all I have. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think we have a procedural issue here in that we would be approving an expansion in the no disturb zone. I just think we ought to be careful about it. We need to make sure that the variance request was submitted with alternatives and there really is no alternative to it. So that's the thing that struck me about this particular application. So is that something you'd like to go back and think about?
I would say yes. I don't know what the project schedule is. Rob, you know what the schedule is? Do we have time to go back and take another look at this?
Dave, I do not know the schedule. I would say that we have reduced lawn space and increased the planting with native plant material. I don't know if I understand the procedural element. So I guess, David, it's something we have to do. We should probably do it.
Okay. So I guess we need to continue to October. So what the first meeting is the 13th, I believe.
Yes.
So I would ask for a continuance to October 13th.
I mean, you do see my point, David. I hope that I'm not.
Yeah, and
it may appear to be a small matter, but when it comes to to the restricted resource area. I think we just need to follow the regulations.
Right. Well, I understand, but I look at it from the point of view that we're making the resource area better by removing turf lawn.
Okay, well, in your analysis, you can just, make that case.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll see you on the 13th.
Okay,
Yep,
Bob,
we
would
still
you
need a
like-
motion.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we continue 41 Dune Drive to October 13th, 2021.
Sullivan seconds.
We'll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet. Janet is muted. I'll go on
She
to
says
Karen.
aye.
She says aye. Okay.
Unmute quickly, aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Oh, one thing also, David, I think my copy of the site plan says draft on it, so
True.
we would want that removed as well. All right, I'll take that as an okay. Okay, and so then we have, where are we? 21 Lady Slipper Lane, Brian Rosenberg and Elizabeth Martin, map 1B, parcel K6. No SE number at this point. Landscape changes within 100 feet of a coastal bank.
David Clark Engineering, on behalf of the applicant. This again is strictly a hardscape landscape project. The resource areas are a salt marsh and a coastal bank associated with that, as well as land subject to coastal storm flowage. The idea is that there's an existing patio underneath the deck for the lower walkout level of the house, and they'd like to replace that. In replacing it, they are asking to add an additional retaining wall between the patio and the resource area. And the rest of the project is basically reconfiguring the access around the house. So basically the walkway and steps from the driveway down or around the north side of the house to the lower level. We're showing a increase in the no disturb zone of 68 square feet, and that's primarily the reconfiguration of the walkways and obviously the retaining wall. And then there's a slight increase in the 50 to 100. The applicant did provide a landscape plan showing how we're providing the mitigation. And we feel that the project will have no impact on certainly the coastal bank and wildlife habitat within the immediate area, because primarily the whole area that we're working is already disturbed. So I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, David. I am going to have to open this up to others because right now my Adobe Acrobat is updating itself and I cannot see any of the material. So thank you, Karen.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yes.
Could you tell me why behind this shed you plan to remove the privet hedge and ivy? It's not reflected in one plan, but it does reflect in your planting.
Yeah, it's on the landscaping plan because it's strictly a landscaping activity.
Okay.
The reason why it's being removed is both species are invasive.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what kind of privet it was, whether it was invasive or not. And will anything be placed in its place?
Yeah, I think the landscape architect is proposing think he's got bearberry in there. And
It's not reflected on the plan. It just says to be removed, and then there's existing timber wall to be rebuilt, but it doesn't say what might be put in there.
Okay. Looks like he's proposing summer suite, plethora, as well as bearberry going up the side of the path up to the driveway.
Up to this, but not where the privet hedge is.
Right.
I do see
He's talking about the
bearberry
keystone
and
area
some
between the
sweet.
keystone and the timber wall. It just says remove ivy and privet, and it doesn't have anything saying that it's going to be replaced.
Oh, up against the house.
No,
down.
behind the shed where there's a hammock and it has the existing pea stone area. You're removing ivy and privet, but you don't say that anything is going in its place. And I just wanted to.
Okay. All right. I was looking in the wrong area of the plan. All right. I will get an answer for you on that.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Karen. Bob?
David, the retaining wall right in front of the shed, on the landward side of the shed, is going to be built. And as I see it, it would interfere with the access to the front door of the shed.
I would have to look into that. I don't recall where the doors of the shed are.
Yeah, the shed, the front door of the shed, unless the door is going to be shifted, it's right up against that wall as it is right now.
Okay.
And the existing pine covered with ivy.
Okay.
Can you see that on the plan? I'm wondering whether we can save that, just cut the ivy and prune the dead wood out of that tree and hopefully save that tree.
I will find out.
Okay. And where those two walls are on the south end in front of the shed, there are a couple of cedars that are going to be planted.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we can save. There's a huge cedar right between the two walls. Wondering if we can save some of those mature cedars on that end, on the property line.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Okay.
Okay, and other than that, that's all I had at this moment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Janet?
Unmute first. Okay, thank you. Yeah, David, I'm not sure. I mean, the cedars are called out on the plan, 2 cedar, but it doesn't say that they're being removed, and I couldn't find anything in the narrative that says they're being removed. So it's not clear. Can we just get a clarification to that, whether they're staying or proposed for removal?
I have all right. I have that on my list of.
Okay. And
Clarifying.
I see the 12 clethra he's proposing to plant on looks like on top of the retaining wall.
Yes.
And I see 19 bearberries up by the steps coming down. What I can't find anywhere on here are the 4 northern bayberries.
They're. Oh, I see them. They're between the path and the house. So there are some bearberries on the right side of the path heading up.
Oh, there it is,
towards
northern bay. All right, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
I think so I'm assuming then, because that whole area is totally covered in English ivy at the moment. So they're going, and it looks like that English ivy has covered up and over some unfortunate existing shrubs that are underneath that ivy. So are they pulling all that out and planting these bayberries and bearberries in there?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I felt bad for whatever's underneath that ivy is not a happy camper. I think that there's, in my view, there's limited environmental benefit to planting even a native species on top of a retaining wall. And I think that this site would be better served for mitigation by planting natives down along closer to the line. What is it? It's the not the top of the bank, but I guess it is the top of the bank. Behind the area where the existing pine that was slated for removal is a pretty large void area where there's nothing growing. And it just struck me that top of the bank has no vegetated buffer strip in that area, and that maybe that would be a better location for planting at least some of the clethra in there to bolster that top of the bank strip. That's something you could ask about.
Okay, so the clethra that's between the two retaining walls, you're asking if we could put them closer to the top of the bank to increase that vegetated buffer. Is that
Yes,
correct? Okay.
yes.
I have a follow-up question though, Janet. What would go in the planting beds in your view then? Additional mitigation, or we want?
I mean, look, it would seem to me that the top of a retaining wall is a place for landscape.
Ornamentals.
Yeah, more ornamentals, but you can, depending on where we are within the 100 foot, so there are lots of choices. And if you want to plant something, both attractive and provides maybe some pollinator attracting kind of plants to be in there to make the top of the wall attractive and useful.
Okay. No,
So
that
those
makes
could
sense.
Those could be natives. Those could be pollinator natives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. That's it.
Bob, is that the same hand or old hand or new hand?
No, it's a new hand. Thank
New
you.
hand. Okay, go for it.
Also, yeah, Janet mentioned the ivy. I forgot about the English ivy. It's all over that area around that existing pine that has to be that you want to remove, but it's all over that whole bank. Is that all going to be removed? All that ivy?
I'll have to find an answer for you on that. I'm not sure. I didn't really look down the bank to see the extent of it. So I would have to revisit the site to see how much of a project that is.
Yeah, I mean it's covering that whole area where the new path is going to be. It's covering, that whole area. So it's actually would be a benefit if it would be removed to the
Okay.
whole area, and then you wouldn't have to deal with it long term.
Understood.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I don't have anything. Well, I do have one thing, but it sounds like we need to have discussion with the landscaping side of things. You have someone from that side of the project.
Yeah, I apologize for that. It's probably miscommunication on my end to get them the information of how to attend the meeting. But if we can continue this to the second meeting in October, I will make sure the landscape architect is at that meeting, and I will review all the questions so far with him. So
Yeah.
going through my punch list, comments that Bob made was access to the shed is the wall interfering with that. The pine that's shown covered with ivy, prefer to keep the pine. And then the ivy and the privet that is towards the top of bank from the shed. What are we replacing that ivy and privet with? The disposition of the two existing cedars versus the two that are proposed on the plan. The lower retaining wall planting area that's technically not mitigation in that it's confined by the walls. Can we find an area closer to the top of the bank to provide that mitigation? And then how far does the ivy eradication go down the bank? How much of it are we proposing to remove? That's what I have.
Yeah, I actually have one more.
Okay.
And you do have a variance request for the increase in the no disturb zone here in this application, so that's good. However, when I look at it, I could see how the alternatives analysis just basically says, well, it's already disturbed, so it's not really a big deal. However, it would appear to me that if we really wanted to not increase coverage in the no disturb zone, there are opportunities here in the patio that's being built. There's a sitting area off to one side. There's an area off to the other side, and it could be scaled back. So, I don't necessarily want to get into that with this particular project, but it was occurred to me that when Janet was talking about additional mitigation area, that would make me feel better about the fact that we would be allowing you to increase in the NDZ really in ways that maybe we don't have to.
Okay. Well, I will discuss that too.
Okay. All right. So do we pick? I lost track. Do we pick a time to pick a date?
Did you want October 3rd, the 27th? Okay.
Yeah, I think we can just come back one more time before you hopefully write an order in the first meeting in November. So it doesn't really matter whether it's the first meeting in October or the second. I know we have 2 new applications to file next week with you, so that's why I'm thinking maybe the 27th is more appropriate.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we continue 21 Lady Slipper Lane to October 27th, 2021.
Sullivan seconds.
Roll call vote. Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, David.
All right, so I actually did hear from John O'Reilly. And he was, I guess, not really thinking that he had to be here. I'm assuming his thinking is that he did the things we asked for and you guys could vote to move it on to an order of conditions, considering we've already drafted the order of conditions in the first place. So I don't know if you guys have anything you want to talk to him about, or if you're fine with that. I know I am.
You are fine with it? Okay. So actually remind me again, which project which one is it?
8 Windmill.
8 Windmill, that's right. I'm having various issues, technically speaking, today. Does anyone, so I'll just open it up for opinions while I try to sort them out.
Go ahead. I looked it over all the revisions. They look fine to me. The letter contains the performance standards for the coastal floodplain.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I agree. I'm fine too.
Just give me 1 second here.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah.
mitigation was diversified too.
Yep.
A little, yeah, somewhat. I had some comments that I was going to make to them about future applications that they make in terms of following our checklist and making sure that they have everything here. But since they're not here, I can't do that. So yes,
Yeah.
Did you see the email I sent you?
I did. It included the coverage table, which is good, but I still don't see a discussion of performance standards, work protocol, and drainage calcs, which are called out in our checklist. So anyway, it's a small scale project, and I don't think it's all that significant for this particular project. I was just going to ask them to make sure that they pay closer attention to our checklist for any future applications, but that's for another time.
I can pass that on to him when I email him back.
Good, thank you.
Ready for a motion?
I believe so.
Okay, like to make a motion, that we send 8 Windmill Lane to the, work session on October 6th for an order of condition.
Sullivan seconds.
Roll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So where are we in our agenda? Is it time for, how many more do we have here? No, we have, what, 2 more?
Sorry, I couldn't get my phone to stop ringing.
Yeah, 2 more NOIs.
Yeah, we are on 848 Fox Hill Road.
Just wanting to know if anyone wants to take a few minutes break.
I would.
Yeah, okay, let's take, thank you, Janet. Let's take a, I don't know, 7-minute or so break. So
Okay.
coming back at 10 of. Is that right? Yeah, 10 of.
Sounds good.
Yes, no, Channel T. Clock us out for the moment. I forgot to ask if Nikki is here. So anyway, Nikki,
I am
are
here,
you?
yes.
Okay. All right. We're ready to continue.
All right, we have 848 Fox Hill Road, notice of intent, Timothy and Christina Cohen, map 12L, parcel H5. There is no SE number at this point. And it's demolition of existing dwelling and rebuild of a new dwelling.
David Clark here, Clark Engineering. Just there's still no SE number, huh?
I'll double check, but I do not believe
wow.
so.
Yeah, it's been over a month since we filed it. Anyways, the design team went back and looked at the project and the with the owners and
No, sorry, it does have one. It does.
Good. That was.
Yep, 3508.
Thank you. I thought we might have messed up on our end. They found ways to trim some stuff out of some hardscape and building out of the project. So the building itself got slightly smaller and they found ways to move the hardscape, the walls closer to the house. So the increase in coverage in the 50 to 100 went from 614 square feet down to 460 square feet. Even though we're reducing the increase, we've actually came back with a modified restoration plan that provides a little more mitigation per the request of the commission. I think they were looking to thicken up the vegetated buffer down the southeast corner of the property or southwest corner. So we've done that. The mitigation now is about 3 to 1, where 1 to 1 is suggested by your regulations. And we also added notation to the plans about the reconstruction of the access stairs in the same location using same materials. So I'll be happy to answer questions. The representatives from Sudbury Design Group are also on the line if you have questions regarding the landscape plan.
Okay, thank you, David. Let's see. So just to sure I understand the change. So last time we were all together, I think my recollection is there were 3 of us who thought that the hardscape in the outer aura was too much. And so what I think we had before was 3,927 square feet in the outer aura before, and now it's 3,773. Is that comport with what you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So what percentage of a reduction is that?
David, if I may.
Oh, go ahead.
Mike Picard with Sudbury Design Group. The reduction in hardscape from the previous is about a 25% reduction for what was previously proposed, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's what I get.
Yep. So, okay, my math is different than yours then. And I'm not very good at math, I will admit it. So, the 25% reduction, we have, okay, how many square feet less do we have now?
150.
150. I think they said 154.
154.
Yep.
I'm having a hard time figuring how that translates to a 25% reduction.
It's 25% reduction of the 614 increase.
Oh, it's a 25% reduction in the increase. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you compare the proposed coverage in the outer aura with your first proposal versus the revised, well, with your proposal versus the revised proposal, it's 1%, I think. So, it's there are different ways to say different things, different ways with numbers, but that's the number that leapt out at me.
Can I just jump in here,
Please,
Bob, and
please,
say,
please
yeah, it leapt out at me too. And I got to say that I sat and side by side looked at the original and the revised and tried to identify where the reductions had taken place. And I couldn't find it. I mean, I'm still looking at it and I see if the house was reduced, it may have been beyond the 100-foot line. I'm not seeing anything. And I got down as far as counting the paving stones to figure out if there was any change in the hardscape outside. And, you know, some of the things are changed a little bit. The table's been changed to a fire pit, but the dimensions look exactly the same.
Yep. So you look on the east end of the house, right at the 100-foot line. There is a little bump out that's been removed on the dwelling. And then you look at the proximity of those retaining walls to the 50-foot setback line. You'll see that they've been pulled away from that line. So those two changes results in the 154 square feet.
Okay.
Okay. I would characterize that as.
Janet, we didn't hear all the words. I want to hear those words.
The words were de minimis.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, may I add something?
Who is this?
Mike Picard with Sudbury Design Group, landscape architect. Specifically, Janet, the pool itself was reduced in size, and the walls associated right by the pool moved in 3 feet from the previous plan.
Something pertinent information that would need to be published on this plan, so I'm surprised that the town is even saying that they're asking us to sign a letter that says.
All right. It is acknowledged that there was a reduction. I guess what I'm stuck on is that it seemed to be a very, very small reduction. Again, check my math, but coverage previously, coverage now, 1% reduction. And I don't really think that's what we who had concerns about the coverage had in mind or it's not we were hoping to see when a revised plan was submitted. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know if that's true for.
Well, we think a 25% reduction in the increase is significant.
It not in absolute terms. We still have. It essentially looks the same.
Right, but
honestly,
it's hard to discern the difference. It still strikes me as an excessive amount of parts. The entire buffer, the entire 50 outer aura is taken up with hardscape.
Oh, that's not true. The numbers are right on the plan.
Except for the southern edge a bit.
43% of the outer buffer is occupied by hardscape, is what's proposed.
Yeah, that's what you said last time, and I still don't. I mean, I look at the plan and I think I don't.
It just doesn't make any visual sense to me either, David. I mean, I'm not saying that you're.
Maybe this property line. I'm looking at it in terms of probably maybe and not taking it all the way over to the property edge. But on what we're looking at here on the screen, there's some area on the southern edge that is not occupied, but pretty much everything else is.
Well, we're not making up numbers. So it's the existing coverage is 37.8, and we're going up to 43.1.
So one way I looked at it when he mentioned the 43 or 50% or whatever, I kind of just split it in half and put half up here and then half down here, and it kind of seems like it would fit. I mean, you'd have to reconfigure it obviously, but so that's kind of how I visualized it, to say, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of about half or whatever number specifically. He said 40 something.
Mhm.
So as you can see, the plan that you're looking at, last revision I made.
Well, I'll open it up to comments and questions.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak again? Mike Picardo,
Sure.
Sudbury Design Group.
Sure.
Also, the commission had some additional requests that we've added, and I just
Okay.
want to make sure that they're noted.
Right.
They added 4 markings along the mitigation line, and that is noted by 6x6 granite markers on the plan. We've also added the planting plan, and Janet, maybe that is where it's looking a little confusing. We have a lot of circles going on. If you zoom in, where we added planting, you wanted to see with the planting between the 50-foot and the 100-foot, and you wanted it to be 50%, at least 50% native. It is greater than 50% native, and it has a separate plant list, which is also now listed on the plan. I'd also mentioned the mitigation is 1,675 square feet, is actually 3.64 to 1 ratio, to be exact. And it means a reduction in lawn area within the 0 to 50 of 675 square feet of existing turf lawn as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob.
You know, I'm kind of torn. I mean, I see the excess in hardscape here. I realize some of it is planting around the perimeter. But then I see the increased mitigation to beef up the buffer strip here, and so I'm on the fence right now. Just want to let you know I'm on the fence. I don't know if that helps you or not, but I'm on the fence.
All information is helpful, Bob. Any other observations, questions?
No, I think that's it. That's it for now. I did have a comment before about the planting more beach grass in the nourishment. And David, you said you were going to find out about that. I don't know if you ever did.
We did address it with the owners, and we did look at the certificate of compliance for that work, and there is an ongoing condition that allows for maintenance of that area. So they intend to do that, but they don't want to wrap it up into this notice of intent because there's already a permit for that.
Okay. That's all I had right now. Thank you.
Okay, Bob. Karen?
Yeah, you mentioned that the pool size has been decreased. From visually, I can't see it. Could you tell me how much you decreased that?
You're muted.
Oh, shoot.
No, not you, Karen.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Mike Picard,
We
Sudbury
heard you.
Design again. If you could flip back to the other page, Nikki. The pool was decreased by 2 feet in width, and we brought the outer retaining wall in a total of 3 feet and condensed that whole pool area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Guess not. So Bob is on the fence. I think there's a 1% reduction in hardscape in the outer aura. Janet was wanting and expecting more, I think. Is that a fair statement, Janet?
Yep.
And I don't know how everybody else feels. Why don't I just ask?
Well, I live on Crow's Pond, so I'm going to go with whatever everyone else says.
Oh no, you can't do that, Terry. What do you think?
You don't have a conflict.
Give us an opinion. You're a voting member.
Let me think about it, all right? Because because that
All
was my answer
Okay.
right now.
What about you?
Yep.
What about you, Mary? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, those of you who are sort of sitting here in the background, but you know, this is one of those issues where I think it's important that we all say our piece.
I was going to follow Terry's lead.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, you know, as you brought up earlier on many other occasions, you look at the alternative analysis and what else can they do? They did shrink the pool. You know, they did use the hardscape, you know, whether it's 1% or 25%. I guess it always depends on which number you're starting with.
Probably, you know, because.
But I don't know if any additional mitigation that can be provided that would help.
So you're suggesting that at this stage at this point, and you're looking at it, that if there were additional mitigation, you would be.
I think that would help me with it.
It would help you. Okay.
I don't know what other
Okay.
people's thoughts
Fair
are.
enough.
I
Karen,
think the more mitigation, the better. And that would be my, I don't know if I have a bias to that though, but that's my feeling. The more mitigation, the better.
Always good. I'm going to pick on you, Karen.
Okay, I figured you were. You did everybody else. I too would like to see less coverage. I agree with your analysis. I don't think yes, it's gone down 25%, but I'm not sure. And if you look at it one way, and there's always several ways to look at it, I'm more toward the 1% than 25%. I also always like to see more mitigation, but the hardscape is quite a bit, and it does concern me.
Yep. Okay, so we'll pull something
Right, thank you,
together,
Karen.
you know, it's basically gonna, as I said,
So by my count, we have 4 who are still stuck on the size of coverage. And I think I hear 2 others talking about the mitigation side of things. And I understand that you have provided your estimation over roughly 3%, 3 to 1 ratio, which is good. It's more than is required. But I think there are two areas that are still ripe for revision. The sheer amount of hardscape and anything that follows from that, really. So I don't know what you want us to do, David. We can, you can say that you want to go back, or you can say you want us to vote.
Yeah, I'm just troubled by the way the discussion's going.
Okay.
I mean, every time we come to the commission with a project, we tailor it to fit the regulations, and then the commission sets the bar even higher every single time. We're providing 3 to 1 mitigation where only 1 to 1 is required. There's nothing in your regulations that talk about site coverage. It's all about impacts to the resource area, and are they adverse or not. Your regulations, well, not your regulations, your policy talks about mitigation. So from my client's point of view, we're improving the resource area. We're providing 3 to 1 mitigation right up against the bank where it does the most benefit. And we're asking for a modest increase in the 50 to 100, all within currently landscape and hardscape areas. No trees have to come out. So there really is no impact from this project on naturalized areas, and it's all within the formal landscaping of the property. I think I appreciate your concerns about site coverage, but it leads the commission down the path where applicants are forced to provide more mitigation than what your regulations call for, and there's no benefit. So I hear some of the commission saying more mitigation, but in the end, we really feel that the first time we presented this project, that there was a benefit to the resource area. And so the second time around, we've increased those benefits, and yet we're struggling to get a majority of the commission to be in favor of this project. That's what's troubling to me.
Mr. Commissioner, can I add one thing? It's Mike Kutu from Sudbury Design Group.
Certainly.
I don't know what commissioners, what members of the commission have been out to the site, if everybody's been there, but there's approximately in the same location as our retaining walls is an existing retaining wall, and everything that we're doing is to the north of that, where that current retaining wall sits essentially. So to David's point, I think everything that we're doing is having nothing but a positive impact on the protection of the resource area. And as he said, it's all previously disturbed and previously developed land, and we're mitigating it, 3 times what the commission requires. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll say a couple of things about those 2 sets of comments. One is that there was in this property already a substantial amount of coverage in the outer aura, it is being increased. So that struck me, and I think it probably struck some others. And secondly, we hear this all the time that, well, it was already developed. But in reality, almost every square foot of property in Chatham that's within 100 feet of water was developed a long time ago. And that honestly doesn't carry a tremendous amount of weight for me, because the reason the Wetlands Protection Act was developed in the first place was to try to stop that, and in wherever possible to reel it back so that we have we sort of undid the sins of the past. So I'm just saying that for this project and for all others, to say that it was in disturbed areas is not something I look at too hard.
Well, that's
Terry
unfortunate, because we can clearly document that we meet all the performance standards. There's no wildlife habitat that's being lost here, and that's really the only performance standard in the buffer zone that applies. Again, this is the buffer zone. I know it's a resource area under the local regulations, but we're improving the coastal bank, and we're concentrating all the development in the outer aura, where there is currently no wildlife habitat, unless you consider lawn wildlife habitat. And again, if you do, we're replacing it with high quality wildlife habitat at a ratio of 3 to 1.
Okay, David. Janet, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I too get, I hear you, David, but I also hear what Bob says about when we have pre-existing site coverage from older structures that were developed before a lot of information about the importance of resource areas was known. It's not heartening to see people replacing one set of disturbances with another set. Now, granted, the house is moving back, and when I first looked at this, that was my first reaction, was to say, great, the house is moving out of the buffer zone altogether. But that satisfaction was deflated pretty quickly when I looked at what was happening with the hardscaping. I hear you about the performance. This is really hard, because I think you're right about the performance standards. I'm struggling to point to something specifically that says we should not approve this because it doesn't meet some or other performance standard, because it is already disturbed. I mean, we go through the checklist in the buffer zone performance standards, the site characteristics. There is no particular wildlife until you get down toward the coastal bank and down toward the marsh and the water. but there's just something about this, and this is not a basis for saying no, but the fact that every time I look at this, it just strikes me as excessive, becomes hard for me to get beyond. I don't agree that you need more mitigation. I think the mitigation is in exactly the right place, and it's logical. It's along the top of the coastal bank. You did what I asked and made a fairly robust vegetated buffer strip along there. That's fine. But it's not just the amount of the coverage that's bothering me. It's also the coverage in this particular topography that slopes down not steeply, but it slopes at a fairly significant slope down to the top of the bank and then down. So to see, and this happens all the time, and this is not particularly relevant, but I'll just tell you, all the time, we see only these footprints, and we approve a project based on the footprint saying it's not such a bad impact to the resource area, which does include the buffer zone. And it seems reasonable. And then when we see what actually happens on the site and what gets built there, it is sometimes incredibly shocking. And we've all had that experience. And I look at the slope, at the existing slope, and I look at this hardscape, and I think they're just going to have to recontour that whole hillside in order to support this kind of hardscape there. And so that too strikes me as a permanent change to the resource area. So I don't know the way out, to be honest. I mean, I don't think more mitigation, and this is, I'll just also point out, this is yet another one of where we're trading permanent hardscape for who knows how long the vegetation will last in the mitigation area. You know, it's also been a lesson we've learned the hard way, that it doesn't always last, yet the hardscape is there forever. So just throwing my thoughts out to see it, thinking out loud here to see if I can.
Mr. Chairman, could I comment on a couple of things? Mike Kuto again from Sudbury Design Group.
Yes, please do.
Just to sort of give you some sense of comfort, the existing lawn area between the developed area within the 50 is not changing. We worked really hard actually to not do any recontouring of that area. So just so it's clear, there's absolutely minimal grading taking place only as it ties into the retaining walls. I think in the big picture too, and David probably has talked about this in the past, but yes, we're moving the house further back from the resource area. The parking's moving outside, you know, further back from the resource area. The septic is upgraded and becoming much less of a concern in terms of the resource area. And we're adding stormwater controls where there currently exists none. So I think it's really important, if you're going to look at this project in its totality, that you take all of those things into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry, do you have a new hand up? Muted. Still muted. Still muted.
Muted.
Still
Muted.
okay. Let me go to Karen while let me. I think.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
I'm good with the mitigation, 3-1. David, I get that right away. And so if you were going to do it right now, that's probably how I vote. I'm not. I don't know if we should be going down this road right now, but I know the others I think would like less hardscape, and that's for you to go with. Thanks.
All right, Karen.
I just wanted to say, Bob, I absolutely agree with you and with Janet. When you say just because something has existed and you're, not changing it tremendously, our job really, at least I view it to be that we need to protect the first 100 feet from any waterway, wetlands, or whatever, and do whatever we can, because we don't know what the repercussions will be from anything that's done, and things were done in the past that our town is now paying for those decisions. And so I get it that it's, moved the house back. I'm thrilled about that. and everything. I just really would love to see a little less hardscape. It becomes, that's something that the wildlife and everything are affected by. And whether you see wildlife there right now, it may not be because of the way everything is on that lot right now. So you never know. But I just wanted to say I totally agree with you, Bob, and with Janet. It's our job to protect the properties that we've been commissioned to protect.
Thank you, Karen.
So this is Nikki. One
Okay,
thing I
Nikki.
just want to point out is, say they do reduce the hardscape, it's just going to be lawn there. I mean, they don't have to do any more mitigation. They've already gone above and beyond our regulations or our policies for mitigation. So I'm not really sure they are gonna, it's gonna be, trading lawn for hardscape. So, I mean, I agree that it is a lot of hardscape, and I feel like the spa could possibly be moved and the outdoor kitchen pulled in and all that kind of stuff, but do we really have a right to tell them to do it if they've already provided so much of the mitigation? So I don't know. It's a toss-up. I understand both sides for sure, but I would just assume that it's going to be lawn instead of pea stone or whatever pavers it was going to be, dry lake pave.
You said you would just as soon if that'd be lawn?
I'm assuming that it would be
You would
lawn
assume,
because
okay, yeah.
they've already given us more than
Okay.
adequate mitigation for their square footage. So,
Okay, so I think we've had a robust discussion here. There's an element of judgment to the decisions that the volunteers and the Conservation Commission make. There are rules that we follow as well, but I believe that I hope, David, and your team are getting the sense that the majority of the commission is still feels as if the amount of hardscape in this project is excessive. So you can take that as you wish. I don't know what you want to do at this point.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Tim?
please.
Mike Picard, Sudbury Design. So some of you are looking for a reduction in hardscape. Does that mean you want no actual increase at all? Or are we just going to keep coming back with reductions and going through the same
That's a
thing?
good question. That's a good question.
Because
yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
decision very different.
Yeah, and it's an excellent question, and I don't know how to answer that question. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I do, David Clark here.
Well, okay.
I mean, if we go down the road that there's no increase in the outer aura, you're basically treating the outer aura as a no disturb zone now.
I agree. Yeah, that's true. So I'm not sure I'm not so sure that's exactly what we're talking about here.
No, well, that makes me feel better to state it that way. But I think that's the whole purpose of the mitigation within your regulations, that the outer aura shouldn't be altered unless there's an environmental improvement. There's a benefit to the public interest, and I think we've provided that. So I think I'm done. So I don't need to talk anymore. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think maybe you do need to talk, because someone needs to say what you would prefer that we do, and that is, do you intend to or not review your proposal, or do you wish us to go ahead and vote?
I can't answer that. So unless Mike can, we might have to continue to probably a working meeting, and then we can give you an answer whether we're coming back with a revised plan or not.
Okay. Let's do that then.
All right, so we're going to continue. You're going to go to your clients, see if they are willing to do anything else. If not, you'll let us know. And if they are, then you'll provide us a new plan, right?
Yep.
Okay, and you want October 6th.
Yeah, and that's strictly to give you an answer as to whether we're going to let the project stand as it is or come back later on in October with a revised plan.
Fair enough.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue 848 Fox Hill Road to October 6th, 2021.
Sullivan seconds.
Roll call vote, Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. So the next one is 535 Stage Harbor Road. Kenneth McNeil Taylor Jr. Revocable Trust and Susan D. Taylor Revocable Trust, map 14A, parcel 4, SE 10-3503, proposed boardwalk and catwalk.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley on behalf of the Taylor family.
Bill.
I'm gonna start taking no-dos before I go to these meetings.
Okay.
So we'd like to start out with a major shift here. The Taylors have thought long and hard about their proposed project, and at this point in time, we'd like to withdraw the catwalk aspect of this project and move forward on the balance.
And the balance would be the rollout boardwalk.
Rollout boardwalk, and then the mitigation plantings and on the around the on the south side of the residence.
Oh, okay. Well, that is a shift, and I personally welcome it. So,
Can I make a motion to?
So real quick, I know a lot of people abutters were concerned, but all of their concerns were stated about the catwalk. So if it's okay with the commissioners, I would prefer not to read all those letters if the catwalk is going away, because that might, significantly change their stance on the project. And of course, if there's any abutters here that do want to speak in regards to any concerns without the catwalk being a part of this, feel free to do so.
Mr. Chair, I'd suggest I would request that the commission take a vote now allowing the withdrawal of removal of that aspect of the application so that there's no concerns for anybody. I want to make it absolutely clear.
I guess.
You want to withdraw the plans and submit revised ones, or do you want to withdraw the whole application?
No, we're withdrawing the part of the application that requests a catwalk. And it seems to me it would be appropriate for everybody's comfort level if the commission were to vote on that request. In other words, presumably you would vote in the affirmative to remove that aspect of our application, and then we would not be dealing with it in any way whatsoever, simply dealing with the other aspects of the application, mitigation plantings, a rollout boardwalk, and Teresa's plans for mitigation plantings.
It's a little unusual way of doing it, I guess. The clean way would have been just simply resubmit things where the catwalk is removed. So
we shouldn't have to do that. There's no point in resubmitting any. We'll have David, submit another plan, removing the catwalk, but we didn't want to spend an hour talking about the catwalk today that we're going to withdraw.
Oh, so. Of course. I'm just talking about I don't remember voting in the past on just simply waving away a part of a proposal, but I assume you intend to resubmit documents that will remove the catwalk.
Well, was submit another plan that has
Yeah.
a catwalk off it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't been
And-
able to talk to Dave Clark about it today because he's been so busy on other matters.
Oh, okay. Well, this is late breaking news then to David. Okay.
Yeah, see, we tried to call David, but he was to let him know.
He has a lot of, he's
So
a very
busy,
guy.
we
Yeah.
haven't had a chance to talk to him. So,
Yep.
Yeah, so we were just,
Um,
I'm assuming David can submit that plan within a week. I don't know.
I don't know, Nikki, in your experience, is this something that we can handle procedurally to do this, or does it make sense just to wait on the revised plans as far as, I don't know if we're going to be able to vote on every, for example, we haven't even talked about the mitigation area in previous hearings.
Well, that's why we thought it would make more sense to talk about that today.
Yes, yes, we should.
Okay,
yes.
so
Let's do that. Let's just do that.
that.
I don't know about voting to just. Nikki, you can. Nikki, go ahead and weigh in on whether or not you think that that's procedurally doable, just to vote on getting rid of a part of a plan that will be later resubmitted.
I think, yeah, I mean, I want to review because, things have changed every time we, hear the project. So I do want to review what the most recent official plans are for the land management. And then we can also look at the most recent site plan. And I think we can approve pending removal of the catwalk from the plan, if we have no other questions about the rest of it.
Okay, let's leave that toward the end then.
Okay. I'm just trying to find the most recent stuff to.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. I think I'm facing. Those of you who get paper copies probably can shuffle back to your pile and find the mitigation plan. I'm having to go now, since they were in the Dropbox folder today, go back and look for them. So I will just so.
To help you find them, they're in the folder for the July 14th hearing.
Okay, thank you.
That's where I just found them.
Okay. My fellow digital person. Okay. Oh, there's so many.
While you're looking, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So, Bill, if the impact that we're talking about is really limited to just the rollout boardwalk, it's probably not correct to refer to all of the landscape part as mitigation. I think this should just be recharacterized as a voluntary restoration project. Mm-hmm. And then we could look at it that way. And we need to stop thinking about it in terms of mitigation, because that carries different expectations and different standards. So that may require a little bit of a cleaning up of some of the documents to take it away out of mitigation.
So the mitigation plan was from Blue Flax. Is anyone here from Blue Flax to talk about it?
I don't think so. The Teresa is down in Brazil.
Oh, that's right.
Wedding. Right. That's why she was here at the last hearing, because she wanted to make sure we had no questions this week.
So Bill, just go ahead and text her and see if she's up.
Well,
and we've
focused on the I was in a New Orleans conservation meeting yesterday, Tuesday morning, and she called in from Brazil.
Okay. Very good.
Wow.
So we're hampered. We're hampered a bit in discussing then questions that we have about that mitigation plan, I would think.
She did present it. To be honest, I did not look
sort of
preparation for today, because it was all about the catwalk.
And I remember asking previously, well, how is the mitigation plan up there? How does it relate to the catwalk and so forth? And
it never had a strong relationship. So it's better.
The sense that I got was that, well, it's something out there separate. So I didn't know how to deal with it. So
be flexible, Bob. Be flexible.
Would it be helpful, Bill, if the commission more or less gives you a straw poll of, are they fine with the boardwalk? Is that your
Oh,
concern?
well, that's a good thought.
And then we
so-
can still discuss the land management stuff with Teresa when she's back, but then you can at least have confidence that the commission plans or does not plan on allowing the boardwalk.
Right. Now, there was, as I recall, some mitigation. There was some plant work related to the rollout boardwalk. And
Yeah,
there's a
they
bunch,
had it on the Phragmites.
there's a bunch of Phragmites there. She was going to take it out and
Right.
plant some natives. But by and large, that area is going to be,
Is
you know,
are
it's
you-
it's
are
it's
you
there for
talking
the
about
purpose. It's for the boardwalk.
When you ask about the straw poll, you're talking about the rollout boardwalk, the rollout walkway?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay,
what
yeah.
Nikki was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like, Bob's got his hand up.
Oh, there you go, Bob. Okay.
I was gonna ask, how is the marsh gonna be traversed now? Is it just by the roll-up boardwalk?
No, the roll-up boardwalk is only on the upland.
Okay,
The marsh would have to be traversed by foot.
by foot, okay. And hopefully, when it's traversed, they don't use the same path, the same route every time. Because that will create a path, is what I'm saying. That's the only problem I had. But other than that, I understand the neighbors' concerns and the aesthetics of the whole thing. So I'm good with it.
Terry?
Yeah. I've asked this before. Does every property that's on the water have the ability to access the water if the access is not already existing? I don't understand why we're going through this whole path down through something that wasn't there before if there's already access, I believe, existing.
I can answer
Well,
that. No,
Okay.
Feel free, Bill, but I can answer that as well.
Terry, you know, the Taylors own waterfront property. So they have a right to get to the water, period. I mean, it's not, you can't say, well, you don't have a right to walk on your property to get to the water.
Terry, let me, actually,
Every
for everyone's.
Can then have an access to the water? I'm just asking because CBI, well, it doesn't, every lot is allowed to have its own access to the water, Bill?
Well, Terry, it's not a question of having access to the water. They own waterfront property. They own to the water line. And so are you trying to tell me that there's something that says they can't walk across their property?
I'm asking if they have got to be respectful of the buffer zone to the water.
Let me interject.
Like all the people on Riverview, let's say, all the people on Riverview, are they allowed to build paths down to Monomoy River, Muddy Creek, whatever we call it?
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, that's a completely inappropriate question.
Well, let me just say, Terry, that the Chatham Conservation Regulations and actually the Wetlands Protection Act has language that in terms of let's just say elevated walkways, or I'll read it out actually. A small project within a salt marsh, such as existing walkway or other structure which has no adverse effects other than blocking sunlight from the underlying vegetation for a portion of each day, may be permitted if such a project complies with all other applicable requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act or the town conservation regulations. So it is actually written that an elevated walkway, a catwalk, is not prohibited, but it does depend on the overall project. And,
Okay.
and there's similar language for walkways. It's just what matters are the details of the proposal. There's nothing
Okay.
prohibiting it. In fact, there's actually language that allows it within conditions.
Bob, can I just follow up on that?
Yes,
Just
please.
because, and this goes to both Terry's question and Bill's point. If a waterfront property owner owns basically to the mean low water line, so you have, as a property owner, you have the right to get to the water that you are bordering. However, when that's not like all property rights, it's not unlimited. It's subject to limitations, among which are the Wetlands Protection Act that says you can't destroy a protected salt marsh. So yes, an owner can walk to the water through the salt marsh, but in doing so, they have to exercise care so that the salt marsh is not damaged or destroyed by doing that. And what's become clear over time is that people don't do that. They create paths just by repetitive walking. The marsh gets trampled, and that part of the marsh is destroyed. That's why the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and our regulations actually favor the construction and the installation of a catwalk, because designed right, it creates less of an impact on the salt marsh. And it's a way to actually protect the salt marsh while giving the homeowner the ability to get to the water. So here, by removing the catwalk proposal, there's a risk that the homeowner will end up damaging it. So what we're saying to them and reminding them that they are under an obligation to make sure that doesn't happen. I may have been in the minority of thinking that the catwalk was environmentally the preferable option here because it has less impact on the salt marsh. But, we're going to go without it, and we're going to rely on these people's ability to be respectful of the marsh.
Does that help, Terry?
You gave me the answer. They have a right to access the water. That was my question.
Oh.
You wanted the short answer. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I appreciate all the answers, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So anyway, we're back to Bill's question, which is, does anyone have an issue with the boardwalk part of the application? And I will say, in general, I don't have a problem with it. I think it serves a couple of purposes. It makes it safer for the owner to get there with his watercraft, and there will be mitigation down there to offset it. So yeah, it's never been a primary concern for me. Anybody else have any comments on that or different points of view? All right. So does that help you, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but now we're back to the big mitigation piece, and also I will note it also includes the big mitigation piece along the road from the house.
Yeah, because we want to create a path. Right now, the Taylor family is forced to walk on the street to get down to their access way to the water, and so what they want to do is create a path so they don't have to walk on the street, and because they are going to be, cutting the vegetation back from the edge of pavement. As you can see, we show the property line and edge of pavement down where the mitigation plan meets the driveway to the hubby house. And so what we'll really be doing is creating a safe path for a lot of people to walk on, but including the Taylors. So they're going to be, if you scroll up or scroll down, whatever way you want to call it, back towards the house, the main house, you can see they want to cut back the vegetation all along the property line. Because right now, if you've been there, I mean, the vegetation, very, very heavy vegetation, and all invasives, by the way, it actually crowds the edge of pavement. And so there's no place for people to walk. And if you've been down there at all, it's a very heavy walking area. So we think there's a public benefit in addition to the benefit for the Taylor family. We don't have Teresa, but we have Teresa's plan, and you can see that she's really done a great job. Because the whole section of plants along the street are all invasives. So they'll all be removed. And there are some invasives along by the marsh, but I don't think there are really all that many. I think this is just the Great Mitigation Plan or Land Management Plan or whatever you want to call it. So
I would in general agree. I've been wanting to turn our attention to this, and yeah, there's a lot at a cursory glance to like about it, and I agree that there is definitely a public safety problem there for the Hubbies getting down that road. I almost got hit a couple of times when I was there on a couple of site visits. So I understand the interest and the need on their part. The only question I have is whether or not we can. I mean, it's a fairly substantial piece of mitigation, and normally with something that size, we'll be having questions that would be answerable by the the landscape or the restoration specialist. So I don't know if it makes sense for us to review and vote on this without Teresa being here.
no,
Is that?
No, that's fine. We just wanted to get the catwalk
Out of there,
out of the equation here, and move forward on the things that are generally approvable here.
That everybody's happy with, yeah. Yeah. So, any thoughts? Anybody have general thoughts on that mitigation plan? Go ahead and toss them out. But I think we will want to dive in as deep as we need to dive whenever Teresa returns.
I would say so. I think it's a great restoration plan. It's been some time since I've studied it in detail, but I know that it addresses a number of issues that are needed. I still have some concerns about what's going to happen, where the rollout boardwalk is going to go, and how the Phragmites is going to be controlled, and the Phragmites that border some of these areas, and how the plan is to keep it from that, from being taken over by that. But we've talked about those kinds of things before, and I'm sure we can work that out.
October 5th.
Okay.
I think Teresa had mentioned, I mean, she's kind of got her hands tied on the Phragmites. I mean, they can do the area of the boardwalk, but she can't go anywhere else because it's not
on
their
their property. I think it's on the Hubby's property.
So, I
But
mean, I think just by having the boardwalk go down every year.
Yeah, but she needs to work out a way to separate her restoration area so that it doesn't get taken over by it.
Right, yep.
Yep.
What I would suggest, Teresa will be back October 5th. So, I mean, we could continue this to your work session on the 6th.
I don't think that would be fair to her.
Wait a minute. She was doing a Zoom call from Brazil yesterday for somebody else.
Get off the plane and come to conservation.
Just work through your jet lag.
It's only 2 hours, so.
That's true.
Oh, it is.
That's true. It's a straight north-south.
Oh, that's true. It's not. You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that does seem a bit much to ask of her, but you can always ask her.
All right. So our problem is that the Taylors are not going to be in the state at that time, and they'd really like to be here. So that's why we'd like to do it to the 6th, if that's possible. And we'll just, we'll load Teresa up on coffee, and at least she's in the same time zone,
All right. So
Okay. All right.
Brazil.
Fair point.
Well, how about I mean, I don't know if she's checking email or if we can have a way to even contact her, but I guess it's kind of up to her whether she wants to come on the 6th or not.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we continue to the 6th? I'll communicate with Teresa, and I'll actually tell you the truth about what she says.
Oh, that's very generous of you, Bill.
Well, it's part of the profession, Bob.
All right.
So why don't we do that? If she's able to, we can discuss it on the 6th. If she's not able to, we'll move it to your next regular meeting. So,
Okay. So I guess the motion is whether to throw Teresa under the bus or not. So
I'd like to make a motion that we continue 535 Stage Harbor Road to October 6, 2021.
Terry Sullivan seconds.
we'll call vote. Bob?
Aye.
We're hold on, Janet.
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you
And,
for the
we'll-
twists and turns. Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
for,
that's okay. I'll be in touch with Nikki regarding my communications with Teresa. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you. All right, now we're on to an easy one. 4 Ministers Lane, Foxman Nominee Trust. This is a request for certificate of compliance, map 17J, parcel A3, SE 10-3280. We saw this one maybe in May or so. And I had gone out there, and let me just share my screen. Come on. All right, so I'd gone out there and all this dune beach grass area, all the beach grass had died. So then we discussed, obviously it needs to be, something needs to be replanted. Beach grass probably isn't the best choice because it's not going to get any new sand, and that's what beach grass likes. So when I got this picture, I was like, seriously, you've just planted beach grass again. So I sent an email to Coastal saying we had talked about doing better plantings in this area. So I don't feel confident, and they've just been in for a couple months, so I have no confidence that they're going to stay. And so I was like, you're not getting a certificate of compliance for at least a year or more. Or I'm not going to recommend one. I guess you guys could always veto me. But so then Coastal just had Wilkinson call me, and he was like, oh, they didn't tell us that there's beach grass here before that failed, and so we just planted what they told us to plant again. So the representative from Wilkinson agreed that they can put other plantings in there and that the beach grass may not have been the best option. So I just said, we'll do no action and come back to me when you've got either a new planting plan or these have survived for at least a year, I would say. So we're just doing no action at this point. We're not declining it. We're not approving it. So they can come back when they're ready with something else.
Mr. Chairman, this is John Bologna, Coastal Engineering.
Oh, thank you, John. I didn't
Yeah,
realize you were here.
hi, Nikki. Yeah, so I was not involved in this project, maybe just on a peripheral as the principal in charge of the project there. But anyways, Roger McNevich, who's retired, was running this job, and as Nikki has indicated, their contractor who did the work on the stone also was under contract to do the plantings. Which they did, and they did not survive, as Nikki has indicated. So at that point, Wilkerson Environmental Design was brought in to do a mitigation planting plan, and I don't know who said what to what. I'm not going to, contest any of that, but that was not the message that I got from Jay Putnam when I talked with him this morning. In fact, trying to get to the bottom of what was going on. But he said, we gave him a copy of the plans. In the order conditions, there's nothing in the order conditions that talks about anything. In fact, it does indicate both on the plans as well as on the narrative that was submitted originally with the project, as well as on the order conditions itself, that the disturbed areas will be planted with beach grass. That's exactly what it says. The photograph looks like the beach grass is taken pretty nicely. And I think part of the problem was that the company that put the beach grass in the first place did not do a good job of installing. Whether or not they irrigated or not, I don't know. However, Wilkinson's did, and I asked Jay specifically about the grass. He felt that what was planted there was appropriate and that it should survive. And he's under contract right now with Mr. Foxman to maintain it, for 3 growing seasons. So that's kind of where it is. So I was a little puzzled, really, be honest with you, to kind of all the bantering back and forth. So then rather than kind of all these different conversations going back and forth, I just for the benefit of our clients to, hear directly from the commission and, kind of what the issue is here. I mean, I feel that it's a pretty robust installation. You can see there's a good overstory behind it with the rugosa rose and other woody vegetation that's there. And again, having a requirement in the order conditions that requires the ongoing maintenance of that vegetated area. And if any of this doesn't take, they'll have to come back in and supplement it and augment it with other vegetation if that's appropriate, whether that's other types of beach grass or other types of vegetation. Certainly that would be what would be the intent at that point. I could just tell you, Mr. Foxman's a very fastidious individual, and he wants to have it done correctly, and has not really been hesitant on appropriating the right personnel to do this and to get it done correctly. So, we just like to kind of clean up the project. It's gone on for quite a while, and by asking it, I mean, if you want to issue it as a partial certificate or what, I don't know what your mechanism is for reviewing the ongoing maintenance and something that does have a kind of a 3-year growing season clause. So maybe a little bit of clarity on that would be helpful, so I could advise my client as such.
Unfortunately, I never saw the beach. I wasn't here yet when the original beach grass was planted, so I don't know if it was done well. I don't know how much was done. Most of it did die off, but I don't know if it was maintained. So, I mean, I'm fine with the beach grass being what's there if it will survive. But we had suggested maybe that they do some different plantings when they had the last certificate of compliance hearing, which I thought I think they agreed to. So that's just why I was like, I don't know if this is something we should approve yet, especially since it's only been in for a short amount of time. And it was planted in a weird season as well. Now that I think about it, usually that's done more in like the colder weathers. But anyway, so I'm fine with the beach grass staying. I need to have confidence that it is going to, live for, longer than just the summer that it's been in so far. So that's why I just suggested no action, and you can come back at whatever time frame you'd like and have me come do a site visit and try and get your certificate of compliance then, if that works for everybody.
I guess it's typical for certificates of compliance for the 3-year growing period to have substantially passed before a certificate is applied for. So this has been in place for a year?
Not since, no, it's only been in since May or so.
Okay, well, that would seem to be too soon.
So, Mr. Chairman, John Bologna again, and again, just trying to understand a little bit about your process, and again, apologize for picking up this project at this stage of the development. In terms of the certificates of compliance, and kind of maintain, because I know other towns will do it as a partial or something. They kind of keep it as an open, condition, given the fact that it's kind of ongoing maintenance to the extra 2 growing season. I think there was a letter that was included from Wilkinson Ecological Design, indicating they're under contract to do this, and that they will continue to monitor for the next 2 growing seasons to show that assure that the area is stabilized and we'll maintain a healthy, vegetated installation.
Yeah, that's all good. Normally, I think, and correct me, Nikki, we wouldn't even talk about doing a partial cert unless there was a sense of urgency on the part of the owner to, for example, sell the property or need to close an application out so they can start a new one, or some extenuating circumstance. But I'm not aware that there are any in this particular case.
Yeah, I don't like partials. I don't really see their point, and except when they are trying to sell their house or something like that, and that the house is fine, but the plantings still need to remain open. But I just feel like I don't know how much partials are followed up on in the future to get the full thing, and I just don't understand a partial if you're not. I mean, what's the rush if you're still living there? And
that's the question. Is there a reason that a partial is being sought?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, John Bologna again. So, yeah, Mr. Foxman has have other considerations. I'm really not at liberty to discuss exactly what it is, but he's just, been very insistent that we clean up all the permits and, get them taken care of. I do believe the property is up for sale, so
Oh,
I don't
see.
know if that's, I'm
Yeah,
sure that probably is
does.
part of the consideration here.
Oh, okay. Well,
All right, well, I mean, in that case,
that does shed new light on it.
if he really wants the scour protection to be get a partial COC, I can go back out there. I didn't even go back out there this time because I've had all the concerns about the beach grass. So I can go back out there before the next meeting and the commission can decide if they want to give a partial for the protection, the scouring protection.
Does that work for you, Mr. Bologna?
Yes, that I really appreciate that. Again, I just want to make sure I have clear understanding on, on where the commission's coming from, so I can advise my client accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we would just continue to the October 6th meeting. I can do a site visit again just to check the wall. I think last time I went out there too, it was high tide and you couldn't really get in front of the wall to look at it. So I wanted to look at it again anyway.
Yeah, make sure you go at low tide, Nikki. You'll
Yes.
never see anything. It's got to be dead low.
Okay. Yep. So we'll do that. I didn't notice any problems the first time I was out, but with the rock part. So I don't see an issue doing a partial next meeting on the 6th.
Very good.
Yeah, let me know, Nikki, if you would like to have someone from my company be out there to meet you to walk the site as well.
Okay, I'll let you know. I don't think that will be necessary, but I'll let you know if I change
All right,
my mind.
appreciate that.
All right, so I guess just motion to continue to the 6th.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue 4 Ministers Lane to October 6th, 2021, COC.
Sullivan, seconds.
Roll call vote. Bob?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Here we are. Terry?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
All right, and I vote aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. We have the August 4th, August 11th, August 25th, and September 1st minutes. Bob Delvecchio sent his comments that Crystal received. Crystal's not on the call anymore. She had to go to her other job, but she will listen to all of the comments that you have, or you can just email them to her either way, and she can make those changes if there are any.
Yeah,
If there's not, we can just vote on them all at once.
Let me just, in that case, yeah, I guess we can just take a look at all of them at once. I had very few personally. See what else I have. If anybody had anything substantial, go ahead and pipe up.
Okay.
Oh, I did have one here on 8:11 minutes for 535 Stage Harbor. It just didn't have anything that was discussed. I think it just got left out.
Yeah.
All right, so I can review that one or have her review it.
Yeah. Also, I had a note.
Hold off on voting on that one.
Yeah. Oh, 535. I put it in the wrong place. Yep. And there was a continuance, and I just didn't have time to look and see when it was continued to, but must have been today, or I don't know, last time. And then it felt like this is a draft that was only partially done. in the orders of condition, 22 Drive, 225 and 275 Champlain. And doesn't have anything about what was voted on, what was approved.
Okay, I mean, it's possible maybe she thought she was done and
Yeah,
just,
She
you know,
may have
had
Yeah.
stopped.
grabbed the wrong draft or something.
yeah, it just looked like it was partly done and then not completed.
All right, so that's just August 11th.
Yeah,
So we'll hold off on that one.
okay. Oh, this was why I was confused today. On the August 25th minutes, on 8 Windmill Lane, that we had talked about, we thought we were heading for the work session, but then in the end, we did not, because there was too much information that John O'Reilly needed to provide, all the stuff that came in for today. But it says on here, motion to continue to September 1st work session with all changes submitted prior. I think we voted that, did we? I think we voted to continue it to allow O'Reilly time to submit further changes.
No,
And then I got
we
confused.
yeah, we did vote to go to the work session because there's a fully drafted order of conditions. And it was, for some reason, it was like the day before and he had to revise a plan or something for zoning real quick. So he didn't have the like plan information to give me or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Janet.
So we thought we were
the
going to
order
the
of
work
condition.
session. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
We wrote the order of condition thinking that we were going
right,
to be
we
doing
did.
it. Yeah.
Remember?
I
So,
remember
and
now.
then
Yes,
at
we
the
did.
work
We were
session,
ready to
it got
go.
continued.
I did indeed. Well, you know, that's why today I was sitting here with this very weird feeling of confusion about it, going, something's not clicking here for me. So,
Yeah,
okay.
I can't remember, but he wasn't able to get me the plans in time or something. So he said, just hold off on the work session.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why that one was confusing.
Okay, is that it then for everyone? Sounds like it.
Yeah, I have a couple. I mean, I just have some minor things that I track changes, and I'll just send them to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do it the way Bob does it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for August 4th, August 25, and September 1st.
I'll second that.
Very good. Roll call vote. Bob,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so the last thing I had was the watering ban. So I had had asked Bob to get me clarification on that because we have so many open permits that have, mitigation requirements that possibly were planted this spring and still needed to have some sort of watering system. So, and Bob had said, no, the selectman just said a flat
By the way,
watering ban.
she's talking about the other, not any Bob that's here.
Oh, yes, Bob Duncan, I'm sorry. And so I had emailed him asking to get this on the agenda because I needed to tell either people to not plant or, try and figure out a way that they could still get their already existing plants watered, just for mitigation purposes. So Bob said, oh, I actually already reached out to get clarification. So yep, just listen in and I'll ask questions if I need it. But the select board they were receptive that yes, mitigation plantings and things like that can get watered still. It's really just lawn that's, whatever, who cares if it dies. And like washing cars and spraying driveways and sidewalks and all that kind of stuff is where they were more leaning towards and, just not over irrigating and things like that. So they were receptive to conservation projects still being able to be watered.
Right.
So
what a nightmare trying to figure out who's already planted, who's getting ready to plant, how you're going to, oh my God, I didn't even think about that when I heard about the ban.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Yeah. Eesh.
So we expect
Well,
that
it doesn't
the
really
board
matter
will,
right now anyways, because it's the fall. You don't
Well,
really
it's
need
fall
water
planting
much
season.
anymore,
Fall
right?
no, this
season
is, this is
on us, so
prime planting season.
Oh, I
this is
understand prime planting, but it's not the heat of the wet, it's not the heat of the sun either.
true.
They
but
still need
we
water
still
though.
need water.
Yeah, and we have no idea how long this ban is gonna last. It could start into next summer for all we know. Or it could end next month. So it's just good to get clarification. So we got
So
that.
do we expect that the select board will issue some sort of language that waives mitigation projects from the
That I
watering
do
ban?
not know.
And how would,
Got it.
how will we all know that this is their wish?
There won't be any enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
An
I
email.
can.
Just get an
I can.
email from them.
Yeah, I can contact the town manager and see if she can send me
Just
something.
say,
Or
yeah, it just no watering ban does not apply to mitigation.
Well, the question is, do we need to tell applicants and their representatives that?
So I've been in touch with our three main ones,
Yeah.
Crawford, Teresa, and
Yeah.
Wilkinson, to let them know that they can continue to water their native mitigation plantings, not, you know, their foundation hydrangeas or whatever, but.
Yeah. I don't care about the hydrangeas.
So I don't, not really sure who else does.
Hydrangeas can all die for like.
If it's just a random landscape company, I'm not going to know to contact them. So at least I know the three major ones. And if I get any questions about it, then.
Well, we'll just pass the word as best we can.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. And then Terry had sent an email earlier. I don't know who all saw it yet. And he had a couple management issues, questions, I guess you would say. So I don't know if you want to go through those, Terry.
Well, I'm new, but I just wondering if we could.
Oh, you're not new anymore, Terry.
Yeah, I know.
A lot newer people than you.
You're not the new guy anymore. You've been around a while. You're actually kind of a veteran.
Yeah.
If there's any way that maybe, and I don't know, if we could get the conservation agent's opinion on projects first.
I can do that. I mean, I pretty much write my comments down on the agenda for a site summary for myself to remember what I had issues with. So I can start making a more official copy that just doesn't run off sentences and random words. So I can make an official copy of my site summaries and email that out, you know, the weekend before, the Friday before a meeting or so.
Because if
That
you
would
don't
be
have
great.
a problem,
Somebody just give your agent's report, and it's the same idea where they write down their impressions, the questions they have, the issues, and it's very helpful in terms of guiding our review of it.
Okay, yeah, I can start
But
doing that.
having said that, Terry, and Nikki is not a voting member, and you are, and we're expected, I think, to exercise our own judgment. And so what I'm saying is that if Nikki thinks it's okay, it may not be that you would think it's okay, and vice versa. So I think it's useful to have Nikki's perspective on it, but we should be looking at these things with our own, making our own decisions about these projects.
Yep. No, agree.
So what I'll do is I'll come up with any problems or questions I have. I won't say whether I recommend approval or denial or anything like that. So I'll just give my opinions and
background information if you have any.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. And then I think your other questions were 535 Stage Harbor related. So those.
Yeah, basically, I don't know if there's anyone, you know, my thought is Chatham Bar's Inn has got a whole bunch of locations up there, and just as different examples, they separate out the lots, and can they gain access for each lot? And I'm not using them as an example, but I find it interesting because there's a couple other places in the neighborhood where I'm at that realtors are selling the lots now, and they don't have access or the property, and they're saying, well, we're going to get access. And if they can get it, they can get it, I guess. I didn't really know they could just get access to the water if you didn't
If
have
they
it.
don't own to the water's edge, the only way they're going to get access is through an easement from the owner. So I guess that's what they're thinking, that they can actually, they're having a discussion to get an easement to get access. But that's such as the people have done at Stage Harbor. They have an easement to walk to the water.
They, this particular lot, they own to the water, okay?
Yeah.
You can't get there from here type thing right now, that's all.
Yeah.
And if you can't get there from here, then do they have the rights to figure out a way to get there? And apparently they do. That was my question.
Yeah, Terry, your answers are in the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Conservation Bylaw. So it's all there.
Yeah, all right. So the answer is yes. I already got the yes.
Well, it's always it depends is the answer, and it's always the answer.
It's
the answer to every question.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like someone mentioned, if they have their land all the way up to the water, they can walk down there, and that is their access. If they want to go above and beyond, that's where we come in and we, approve a boardwalk or a catwalk or, whatever. So it's, yes, they can walk through their property, but do they automatically get, structures to make it easier? I don't think that's the case. But I'd have to review it more. I tried to find it in the zoning or the bylaw today and I didn't have enough time by searching water.
You had another question in your email, Terry, had to do with the some entertainer.
No, I mean, every couple of people ask me that. I don't, I'm not. I'm also having fun, believe me. I'm not, but I don't know if anyone else has been asked that question. But
I haven't been.
So I found out about it after it went up. It's they had a permit for a temporary tent. I don't know if it's still up or not. I haven't driven by. And I haven't seen tent permits from the building department. I honestly didn't think about it. I used to review them at my last job, but it's not something that the building department here is generally submits to me. So I would have had some sort of comment on it, whether they would need an admin review or just conditions, but I was told that it was just in lawn area, so I wasn't really that concerned about it. I don't know if that was not the case, but
how would we know?
It was lawn area, and supposedly the police told me that it's supposed to all be gone by today.
It was substantially down. It was not all gone, but it was this morning. They had made a lot of progress, but it was definitely bordering onto the. It came right up the platform they built, and it was a 3-foot high platform that came out. Came right to the fence, which is along the beach edge.
Yeah, so the question is, was it in a resource area? So
well, it was certainly a buffer zone. It was in the no disturb zone. So
yeah, so
it absolutely was in the no disturb zone. I mean,
it
was.
So I would, Nikki, convey to CBI that even if it's temporary, it's an alteration of the resource area.
They also had huge cranes in order to put it up.
Yeah.
That had to be, I mean, they were in the resource area, and who knows, if they did any damage, but, I don't know.
I'm sure they either didn't think that it would be within our jurisdiction or some other reason, but I think it would be good if we said to them in the future, if you are building things in a resource area, you should let us know. And you, as you said, Nikki, you might be able to handle it through an AR or whatever, but it just depends on them. Depends on what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this one was hopefully a one of a kind event.
Oh no, it'll be a copycat situation now.
Everybody's going to want to have an entertainer at their wedding.
There are a lot of billionaires around.
Yeah.
And, now they have
normally a tent permit is just the typical little white temporary tent that's there from undercover tent for 2 or 3 days. And with those, I always just said it needs to, most of the time they're in lawn area because that's where the dance floor is and where dinner is for weddings and stuff like that. So I just always say no vegetation removal, remain in the lawn. If it's on, there's a couple like Witchmere and stuff that want tents on the beach for like the beach ceremony or something like that. And I would say, yes, but it needs to stay in bare sand. It can't be on the beach grass, no trampling of beach grass, that kind of stuff. So those are my usual conditions for things like temporary tents that are going to come down. This one would have been, if I had known there was cranes involved and all that stuff beforehand.
Yes.
It probably
That's why
would
I
have been.
think it's important for you to say to them that henceforth. I mean, you knew about the other things at Quassa because they contacted you, right?
Yeah, they would. Well, they would give temporary tent permits to the building department. The building department would pass them on to me for my little signature. And then they would go back to the building department, but they didn't even get their tent permit from the building department. It hadn't been approved yet before they put the tent up. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say the building department should have contacted you, Nikki, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jay would have. It's pretty good. They're pretty good about asking me. All the departments are pretty good about asking each other if they think we're gonna have an issue.
And Nikki, the other concern that I would have thought they would have brought up is, you know, they brought in generators and put in HVAC, both of which have potential for leaks that would definitely have impacted the resource area.
Okay, so I'll reach out to them and let them know they need to start getting a sign off from me or have them at least routed from the building department if they're in my jurisdiction.
In this particular case, it sounds like there was a breakdown in the building department application as well.
Yeah, it hadn't been approved when they started it, so. But I think most of the time tent permits.
Early. Yeah, they started this Saturday before the wedding, and I would say this really wasn't a tent.
No, it's not a tent.
This was a real structure.
Temporary building.
It was a building. I mean, they were putting a roof on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they had glass siding to part of it. I mean, this was way more than a tent.
It was a building.
I don't have a problem as long as they leave it on the lawn. It sounds like they did, but I was just asked by several people about it. That's all.
Everybody in town was asking about it.
Yeah, everybody was asking. I kept saying, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I wish I did know, but I don't.
Well, so if it's on the lawn, it's fine. I'm sure it is, but that was
part of the lawn can be in resource areas, Terry.
Well, but it's already lawn. You know, and it's not. It's all in.
It is.
It's all lawn.
It's still within our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
You want to bet that lawn is dead now?
They'll probably have to water it.
That died.
Yeah, too bad they can't water it now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any remaining motions, Bob?
Yes. I move to adjourn.
I second. Some seconds.
Let's signal our endorsement by raising our hands.
I'm on the phone. I endorse.
Right. It's unanimous. Right.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Goodbye.